Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Red Devil Experience. My name is Eric. Hope everybody's doing well. We got the latest Manchester United news, although there isn't a lot of news today, but we are awaiting, obviously, the update on the interim manager, and Manchester United were supposed to, they are supposed to speak to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer today. I assume they did. They already spoke to Michael Carrick on Thursday about getting the interim position. And we're awaiting news on that, but we're going to have a discussion about who probably has the better football and what is probably the better need for Manchester United with the current squad that we have. We're also going to update on the transfer side of things and just a general discussion about, what's going on, surrounding the football club and, what happens going forward. Also, the 1958 have come back out. I'm sure many of you have seen the hilarious video that they put out. It was actually a very good video. It wasn't their video, it was another person's, but they put it in their post, and they've announced a protest for Fulham, so we will be talking about that as well. Please make sure you smash the like button, and if you enjoyed the content and you're new, subscribe and hit the notification bell icon so you don't miss a live and you don't miss any part of the show. But just a quick couple things. I mean, listen, my preference, obviously, I've been saying it, is Michael Carrick. I'm not a believer in going backwards. I don't think it ends up, I don't think it works out very well. I think we've had a couple instances at Manchester United already, but just in general in life, I'm not a person that thinks it's a good idea to go back to something that didn't necessarily work out well. The first go around. So I do want Michael Carrick. I don't know what the football club is going to do. I find it interesting, sort of the updates from this sort of situation that, there was a lot of updates. Ali seems to be in the lead. There was one update saying that there was a possibility that, Ali and Michael Carrick could be put in together, and with Ali being the main guy and Carrick being the assistant. Then an update came out following that later on, maybe it was a day after or something like that, saying that that likely scenario is not likely at all, actually, and that they're not going to do that, and it is basically Ole Gunnar Solskjaer versus Michael Carrick. Ruud van Nistelrooy is somewhere down underneath. He's not really being considered that seriously. Some people are making a case for Darren Fletcher, which I don't understand really. But to be fair, I would probably prefer Darren Fletcher over Ole Gunnar Solskjaer as well, because again, I just don't believe in doing something that we already did. I find the situation a little bit embarrassing. Hiring a guy that we sacked. And I don't care who it would be. I mean, if they tried to get me Mourinho back, I tell you no. If they tried to get Ten Hag back, I tell you no. If they tried to get anybody that we had as a manager and we sacked him, I tell you no, because I think it's just an embarrassing thing to do. I think it's a bit of a clown show. So, but there's a couple things. People in the chat. Richard is here. United Keys is here. I think Axe was here, but I don't know if Axe is here. Stephanie is here. Lucky is here. Lawrence Burry is here. What's up, guys? How are you doing? Hope everybody is doing well. Richard asked me if this is going to be about Manchester United or Omri Malovin. It's going to be about whatever I talk about. But, yeah, the last one was not an Omri Malovin again. So, I don't know. But, yeah, I explained what we're going to talk about, okay? Ruben Amorim isn't the manager anymore, so there's no need to talk about Ruben Amorim anymore. And that's it. It's, it's done. Lucky says Ineos, Glaze is out, Fan, Sack, Jason Wilcox. Well, we'll get into that. We're going to get into that as well because, everybody's sort of focusing on Jason Wilcox now. And I mean, I kind of get it, but at the same time, like, listen, There's a guy that employs Jason Wilcox. There's, a group that owns 28% of the club. There's another group that owns the remaining shares of the club. And these people are still here. So, again, if you think Jason Wilcox is incompetent, fine. And if you think Barada is incompetent, fine. But there is a guy that put them in that position, and he should also be incompetent then, because he's hired incompetent people. So the whole thing is incompetent, in my opinion. We shouldn't be focusing so much on just one man. I kind of get the point, but I think we should be looking at it as a whole and grouping them together. And it's not just, Wilcox by himself, and it's not just Barada by himself. It's the whole thing. The whole thing is a mess. The whole thing is a disaster. The whole thing is a joke. So Lawrence says, not got the best feeling about tomorrow, though should be okay with Brighton injuries. Well, I will tell you this about tomorrow. Again, whatever happens, ultimately, I don't think there's a point in going, listen, if we lose or we get battered, I'll blame the players if they put in a shit performance like I always do, because they're on the pitch and you need to play. And you need to put up a fight, So, there's a way to lose, and it's with dignity. And if they lose without any dignity, if they lose by playing shit, then, I'll put it on them. But when it comes to Darren Fletcher, again, I sort of put this whole thing on the people up above, because I think that they made an ultimate disaster of this situation. They didn't plan for this situation. We're kind of flying in the dark as it is right now. And the running of the football club, to do that in the sense of running of the football club is just, it's a joke. It's a mess. It's not serious. It's not, you're supposed to be running one of the biggest, if not the biggest institution, football club, sports team in the world, and you're running it like a Minnesota daycare. And if anybody gets the reference, but it's just a joke. It is a joke. Distraction from the January window, all this coach runoff stuff. That is true as well. Listen, and that's part of the transfers that we need to get up to. The reason why it says Man United transfer ban in the title is because we have essentially imposed a transfer ban on ourselves. It's a self-imposed transfer ban. There's no players coming in, and no players are allowed to leave. So literally zero transfer business. Now, listen, maybe if they appoint somebody, which they say by next week, and we get an interim, and maybe we'll see some people go out, but I don't expect any people to come in. I think this was part of it. The whole thing with Ruben at the end, where he basically was like, back me or sack me. To me, that it speaks volumes. They made the decision, and they were like, essentially, well, get out of our club. And then also they're like, now we don't have to go and get anybody, because they've been holding the football club has been holding the opinion that they don't need to go and get anybody. That was one of the rifts that happened between Ruben and the hierarchy. And the fans have also been saying that we should be going to get in January. So they are the only people that believe that we shouldn't be doing business in January. And then they hide behind the excuses that, our main targets aren't available until the summer, so we'll wait till the summer. And I'm just like, well, that's not serious either. So I'm a bit worried, because I've been saying this for quite some time, in that look around us, look at the noise that's happening with the other clubs, look at what they're saying, look at their managers, look at, people running their football club coming out and making statements that they're looking at the January transfer market and that they are most likely going to make a move. And we seem to be the only team that's not going to do such a thing. And, I think it was a problem for me when Ruben was there. It's certainly a problem for me now, because whoever we put in, whether it's Ali, Michael Carrick, or even Darren Fletcher or Ruud van Nistelrooy, we don't know what we're going to get. It could be good. It could be fun. It could be exciting. It could be a fucking disaster. And I think it's even more of a gamble because at least with Ruben, we knew the system. He was here for, a year, and he had his way of doing things. Ole 2.0, I don't know how that's going to go. It's a different team. It's going to be a different setup. He's not going to have McKenna. He won't have Carrick. I don't know who he's going to have. Maybe Johnny Evans, and I don't know. I don't know. So it's going to be different. Could be good. Could be bad. But there's a lot of unknown. There's more unknown than when Ruben was here. If you get Carrick in, listen, you could look at his time in Middlesbrough. You could look at how he played, and you could get a sense of an idea. But you still don't know what's going to happen at Manchester United. And then Darren Fletcher, to me, is one of the more biggest unknowns because his highest level so far is under 18s coach for Manchester United, which, isn't the greatest pedigree. And I still don't trust his team. I don't trust his players. I don't think the team is good enough still. And I'm worried. I'm worried because I think when I look around and these guys are going to go and buy and we're not going to buy, I think there's a greater chance of us falling behind. And it was the same thing for when Ruben was here. I said the same thing. That was always something that is definitely a possibility. Lucky says spicy Tottenham, Manchester United. I don't know what you're saying. I'm sorry, I missed Steph's. Steph said, big up Eric and experience. Red Devils, big up yourself. Steph, Axe is back in here. I don't know what's happening here. I missed the... Richard says, no, we did not sack Ole, so let me explain to you all idiots why it's called Theater of Dreams. We sacked Ole. We absolutely did sack Ole. He was a manager, and he was fired from his position for shit results at the end of his tenure. So he was sacked. He lost his job. Most of the fan base at that time didn't want him anymore. So he was sacked. Yes, he was sacked. Axe says, I hereby declare the first phase of Jupiter dominance. Okay, I'm not going to read that. Make a footballing point or, I can't do it. Richard says, nothing to do with winning things. It's called the Theater of Dreams because Lancashire railway workers could go and watch exciting football. Okay. That's fine, but that's not what That's not what the fan base talks about. The fan base does not talk about that. The fan base talks about winning things. The fan base talks about they want to be entertained and they want to win things. And my thing is that you can't have both of those at this moment in time because look at the club, look how it's run, look at the players we have, look at the squad. It's not good enough. And you need to build it back up to have both of those things. But the fan base doesn't want to go through the process of building these things back up, and neither does the football club, apparently, because they had a guy and they went backwards on their thing, just like the Glazers did 5-6 times. So this is an interim manager, just chill. No, we did not. He was asked to resign, and he did. He was sacked. If you're asked to resign, you are being sacked. I mean, I don't know how to put it any other way. So you can believe whatever you want at this point. I'm not going to argue about it. I mean, if you ask most people, they'll tell you he was sacked and he lost his job. I mean, if somebody comes to you and they ask you to resign, you are being let go of your position. You are being fired. Like, they went to Ole and they asked him to resign because he's a nice guy, and they wanted to do it respectfully because he's a legend of the football club. So they were like, listen, help us out. We don't want to make it nasty. You're somebody that belongs to this football club. You're not like the other ones. So just agree to mutually resign so that we don't have to actually sack you. Okay? But he was sacked. That's why he's not in the job anymore. That's why he wasn't the manager anymore. He was absolutely sacked. It was Wilcox or Amorim, yet Sir Jim promised Ruben he'd have till the summer. Well, listen, Sir Jim doesn't know shit, okay? And the problem with Sir Jim is that he's hired these guys, right? And Sir Jim will probably have his own ideas too, but they're probably all shit because, I mean, he doesn't understand the sport and he's full of shit. So, and it's kind of a bit of a problem because, listen, if this guy gets involved, I mean, ultimately, Lawrence, who's he listening to? Well, the guys that he put in charge, and to a certain degree, I guess that makes sense. But also, I mean, if you're kind of clueless, again, it's kind of like the Glazers. It's, you know, if you're clueless, well, you're just gonna listen to whatever the CEO and the director of football tell you, and you know, if the director of football, which is Jason Wilcox, seems to have a weird sort of agenda in that he wants to be more involved than maybe he should be, or he's trying to, you know, kind of step on the toes of the manager when he shouldn't be. Well, when Wilcox goes and talks to Sir Jim and tells him, well, you know, he should be doing this or he's not doing this, and you know, he's fucking up everything. He's basically Wilcox and Barada can throw any manager under the bus so easy, so fast, because Sir Jim doesn't fucking know anything. So, you know, and then he looks at it and he trusts them and he's like, well, they're doing their jobs and this guy's not doing their job. And then boom, that's it. It's done. It's over because, you know, those are his guys. You know what I mean? Those are his guys. So, Lyle is here. What's up, buddy? How you doing? Lucky Jason Wilcox. You said Jason Wilcox sack, Omar Barada sack. No, I mean, listen, Inio sack, Glazes sack. How about that? How about that? Because again, I don't like this whole let's sack Wilcox and let's sack Barada, because I think it's the same argument as people were making. I think it's on the same logic in terms of let's sack the manager. I mean, you sack the manager, you trust Wilcox and you trust Barada and you trust Sir Jim to get in a guy that's actually going to succeed. I don't, not anymore. Not the way they handled that whole situation. I don't trust them at all. Okay, well, sack Omar and sack Wilcox. You trust Sir Jim to appoint 2 new guys that are going to do a better job than these guys. I don't. So, just remove the whole entity out of our football club is what we need. Radcliffe is a baffling baboon. I called him for his shit from the very beginning. I even have been censored for calling him a rat, yet lo and behold, he is incompetent. By now, he's only been firing our employees. Well, listen, I don't know. If you're looking for a congratulations, I ain't really going to give you one because I don't do that sort of shit. But I have no problem with the path I chose because, as I always said, I give people time and eventually we'll get our answers. And I prefer my process than jumping the gun from the very beginning and sort of going at the neck of everybody before they even had a chance to even try and do anything. So, you know, but to me, the ultimate thing is what they did in this situation. Because I don't agree with, listen, if you're a fan and you wanted Ruben out because of the results, fair play. But I will say again, he was not sacked for results. So you should not be going around parading like they did something that fit for what you were arguing. Okay, they did not sack him for results. They sacked him because he said bad words about them. All right. And to me, ultimately, whether it was him or somebody else or whoever comes in now, this football club needs to pick a guy and a plan and stick with it. And if you don't do that, then we are wasting our time and nothing is real, which I assume is what it is now. Because for me, that sacking, that's what that was. Okay. Because they didn't do it based on the results that people felt aggrieved by with Everton and West Ham. They didn't do it because of that. I didn't agree with that in terms of I felt like he should have got till the rest of the season because I wanted to see what he was going to do. And we'll never find out because he's not here anymore. Because they sacked him because of public statements he made, not because of results. So to me, once you do that, once you sack a guy, and you don't even tell us it's because of results, which I would still be aggrieved by because I think that that's shit in terms of we were still in a position, something positive could have came out of it. He could have done something or it could have went negative, but either way, I would have liked to see it play out. And he was only here for a year. So for me, once you go back on the whole project, and I always said there's only one way this goes about when you do this, in that if you're going to make this change, you got to give him time and you got to make the changes into the squad. If you don't do any of that, then what are we doing? So the whole thing is a disaster. If you didn't have the money, you should have never done it. You should have never hired him. If you weren't going to follow through with it, you should have never hired him. If you know, so the whole thing is a disaster. The whole thing is a mess. I seem to know a lot, so tell me about Wilf McGuinness, tell me about Michael Knighton. That has nothing to do with what we're talking about, and I don't know about them. Okay? So, listen, you want to come here and be confrontational and start saying things about things that have nothing to do with what we're talking about, then go right ahead and be my guest. I really don't care, but I don't pretend. I talk about things I know. I don't pretend to talk about things that I don't know. I never have, never will, not going to. Don't know. Not afraid to say it. Never will be afraid to say it. Don't know. But that's not what I don't even know how that ties into what we're talking about right now. So if you want to try and tie it in, go ahead. But, we're on a totally different thing here. Lyle says at the moment I'm pretty numb when it comes to United. I just want the team to end the season on a high by getting European football and basically getting ready for a manager rigmarole. Well, I listen, Lyle. I mean, I feel the same. I mean, some of our fans are super excited by this. They're excited by Fletcher taking over. They're excited by Ali coming in or Carrick coming in. They're excited about the potential possibilities of the manager in the summer. I'm not excited by any of it at all. I'm pretty tired of it. And I can't be excited about it because, again, the people in charge of a football club, I don't trust them to get it right. So I just don't see how you can actually be excited about it because I think it's kind of a bit all for nothing. I don't know who they'll get. There's a couple different directions you could go in. I mean, for me, ultimately, I think the fan base needs to make a decision on what they actually want. And then they need to chill a little bit because there's obviously a split in the fan base. Some people say the rebuild and it needs to be given time. But I feel like there's just a couple things. Like, I mean, if you go and get somebody like an Ancelotti, and maybe I'll ask some of you, but if we go and get an Ancelotti, how much time would you give him to actually be successful? Because if you go and get somebody like a Carrick, I think it's the same shit as like a Ruben. It's a bit. People will say it's different because he understands United, but in the bigger picture, it's still the same because he is sort of he's not on the level of Ancelotti. He's an inexperienced guy. So depending on who we get, should determine the path of the supposed project, which I can't even really get behind anymore, but. It's just a bit like, it's a bit all over the place. Like, people don't want ex-legends here. Some people do. people say they demand success straight away. Well, okay, if you demand success, then we need to go get a manager of a certain pedigree. If we don't get that manager of certain pedigree, well, then you have to understand, in my opinion, that you're not going to get the success in the amount of time that you're demanding. So I feel like the fan base kind of needs to make up their mind. Like, what do you want? What do you want to go for? If you're going for an Ancelotti, and because you want success quicker, well, how long does that look for you? Because I still think, even if you get somebody to that degree, with the way we're run, it's probably most likely never going to happen anyway. And if it does, it'll probably still take 3 to 4 years. If you go with somebody like, on a lesser level, even an Areola to that degree, I mean, he's not on the same level as an Ancelotti. It's still going to take a bunch of time, and also he doesn't have, a CV at managing at that level. So yes, I'm pretty numb to the whole thing. Dwight York made some great points today. He was spot on. Yes, we're going to get to that as well. If you're new and you're in here, make sure you're smashing the like button. Get involved in the comments section. Richard says the bastard has been engineering his own downfall for the past 3 months. He wanted out because his job was too big for him. All right, we're not doing this. I'm not doing a Ruben show. Ruben's not the manager anymore. I don't care. There's a difference between enthusiasm and acceptance. Sure, I'm excited about the new manager, but be it Carrick or Ollie, however, I really don't accept the current management and the ownership. Why do I not know? Because this is supposedly a Manchester United channel. Because I'm a human being and I can only have so much information in my brain. What do you expect me to know the entire single history of every single person ever? I mean, I wasn't alive for those things anyway. Like, those, they're not that important to me. Like, I know who those people are. Do I know every single detail? No, I didn't live through any of that. That's not something that we're talking about. It has nothing to do with the current times right now. So, whatever. Like, if that's a problem for you, I don't know what to tell you. I really don't. So, I mean, it's just something that I don't really care too much about. We're talking about current times, current things going on. And I know what I know is what I grew up with. So, Lyle says, I'm really sad we are not seeing any movement in January transfer market. Super difficult, but it would have been nice to see some movement. Well, I think this is what we get. I mean, am I sad? I'm not sad. I would say I'm disappointed and I'm pissed, Lyle. Really. Because they made it quite clear and evident, and I've been saying that, it would be a fucking joke not to do business in January, and they seem adamant on not doing business on January, which, to me, again, is just another Glazer move. That's what it is. It's a Glazer move, okay? Because everything that we've ever done under the Glazers, post Sir Alex Ferguson, even when Sir Alex was here, but we accepted it because it was Sir Alex, and Sir Alex would always come out and say, there's no value in the January market. And because we respected Sir Alex, we were okay with it. But, after him, and the commercial, the more commercialism running of the football club, I mean, that's just what it is. Like, first quarter, you own a business, you don't spend. I work, I'm a construction worker. I work for, I build for companies, okay? Offices, they make a lot of money. January and February is a very hard time for work because nobody spends money. Nobody spends money. They spend very little money. And that's what we do. We get to January, we don't spend money because to them, we are a business. And we are just a business. And it's about money. And it's all about money. And they make it quite clear with the way that they operate us. No actual real football club that's trying to succeed sits there in January and says, well, there's nothing we can do, so we'll wait till the summer. And then when you get to the end of the season and you have a shit season and you get fucked, and you go, well, now the summer is going to be really hard. Well, no shit, you dumbass. Like, you had an opportunity to make it not so hard and make it better, and you ignored it because you run us like a business and not a football club. And then you get to the summer and you say, well, there's only so much we could do now because of our situation. It's like, what's wrong with you? Yeah, we're not getting any players in January. I know that. They made it quite clear. I mean, the sacking of the manager, they made it quite clear. They're using this situation as a cover to not get any fucking players in. Solskjaer or Carrick or Fletcher, they're not going to ask for players. So, it's a perfect cover for them. It's a perfect storm. There was a guy there that was asking for transfers. They sacked him. And now they're going to get somebody in. And now they're kind of just sitting here and they're saying nobody in, nobody out because we don't have a manager. And even when they put in the interim, they're going to be like, well, he's just an interim. So we're not going to make any moves because we're going to hire a permanent guy, which could be full of shit because if it's Ole or if it's Carrick and they do well, they might just give them the full-time job again. So, that's full of shit. And yeah, they're just hiding behind it. They're just hiding behind it now. Which helps them out phenomenally because they didn't want to do any business in the first place. Access stop the business model and return to the football model. We need to take the club from these baffling baboons. They don't understand our DNA. Well, I will tell you this. Listen, I don't know what the 58 plan on actually doing. Okay? And listen, the 1958, they probably don't even respect me as a fan, okay? Because I don't live in England and I can't go to the games and I'm not from Manchester and there's definitely people in the 58 that don't consider me a real Manchester United fan. I don't even give a fuck because I will support them in terms of that. Listen, if you're going to be the only ones to do something, at least somebody's doing something and I'll get behind it. I don't give a shit. I just want the football club to be good again and I want these assholes out. So if they do things to make that happen, I'll support. I don't care if they hate me. I don't care if they don't like me. I really could give two shits. They're just people. And they don't really necessarily impact my life. So if they don't like me, so be it. But what I will say is that they need to do something in terms of a protest that actually has impact. They need to cause disruption. And I think a lot of their protests in the past have kind of fell short of that. So I'm kind of sitting here hoping that they've been taking this time, that they haven't been in the forefront and went in the background because fans weren't really interested in protesting. A lot of fans were in the camp of giving Ineos, time to see what they will do. And obviously now is a better time for them to come back to the forefront. So the people in charge of that thing, I hope they're smart about it. I hope they come up with some clever ideas to try and do some sort of disruption. But, I see some people saying, let's do a walkout in the 20th minute. And I'm like, that's a dumb idea. In terms of that, I don't think it'll do anything. Again, for me, when you look at these things, it's like you have to view it from the Glazers and Ineos point of view. You don't view it as a fan. There's people there that are like, yeah, it'll make a massive statement. We've done that multiple times. These guys are still here. They don't care. They don't care if you go into the stadium and then you leave after 20 minutes. They don't give a shit. They don't care if the entire stadium, which it doesn't, by the way, but even if it was like 65% of the stadium, they don't give a shit if you walk out. You know why? Because you already paid the money. They don't care. What they will care is if the money gets stopped from going into their bank account. So if fans actually don't go into the stadium, if they don't buy the tickets to go into the stadium, and they lose money consecutively from match to match, ticket sales are down, then they'll actually care. Then there's actually something to be done. And I don't know, this might cause a big problem. It might cause division in the fan base. It might, but I would say the people that are actually going to protest, the ones that are there in the streets, because I can't join them. I would if I was there, but I can't. I would say you got to come up with something clever. I don't know. You know, there's a lot of people that usually show up at the point that they meet up. They march down the street all the way to Old Trafford. And I would say one thing that you could do is, like a normal protest, lock arms, go all the way around the stadium to all the entrances, and stand in front and don't let anybody in. Don't let any of the fans in. Or make it hard for them to get in. Or confront them and be like, you going into that stadium, you know, try and make some sort of an impact. I don't know. It's just a thought of my head. It might not work. It might be a stupid idea, but going inside of the stadium after you paid for the ticket, and then maybe you purchase food in the stadium as well, or whatever it is, you know, it's kind of just like you're chopping off one arm to save the other. It's not really helping. It's not really helping. It's not really helping. So, Richard says, I consider you a fan as much as me. I have a different opinion, but you're a Red brother. Well, I appreciate that. And I do understand that, but I'm just saying, I do know that these people do exist, and there's a lot of them that wouldn't consider me a real fan. So, I mean, it is what it is. That's their opinion, and they're entitled to it. But, you know, I don't have to be their best friends, and I don't have that much of an ego that I have to. Listen, ultimately, these guys are the only guys that are making a movement, yeah? So whether they would like me or not, I'll get behind it, because when people actually want to start doing things, that's when I'll come out and support. I can only do so much. But these guys, they obviously have a big voice. They've done things before. I would like to see them step it up a little bit. I'd like to see them get a little bit creative. And ultimately, I hope they succeed, because we need them to. And, you know, I don't know how they do it. You know, it's sort of David and Goliath, even though, you know, David ends up winning in there. And hopefully, ultimately, we end up winning there. So, Axe has no more time for Ineos and the Glazers. This is the ultimate Axe. Win UCL next season, or we'll go after you. Well, that's, I mean, that might be your thing, but that's not everybody else's thing, Axe. So, I mean, you know, that's listen, let me read what they were saying. So, Simon H6X says, good evening to you. First time on this channel. Good evening, Simon. How are you? Glad to have you here. First time on the channel. Also says, don't buy any of the United merch as part of the protest, to all that profit gone. Well, yes, I mean, listen, if you want to do your part, no matter where you are in the world, I mean, there's always, this is why I don't like this context, because I think there is a part to play in for every fan around the world. Whether, you know, you're far, or, you know, whether you're a match-going fan or you're not a match-going fan, there's different things that we can do, for sure. And one of the things that the people that aren't match-going fans, or, you know, don't have the opportunity to be match-going fans, is don't buy the merch, you know. But somewhere along the way, we have to sort of find a middle ground to each other, because it has to be a unified movement at the end of the day. And if we stay divided, we'll go nowhere. And this is why we've been unsuccessful so far, because we are undivided. So, you know, again, I can't ask match-going fans to really, you know, give up their season tickets to a certain degree. I can't ask them to do that. They need to come to that decision themselves. But I don't know. I feel like there's got to be something that sort of leads those people to make that decision for themselves, because ultimately they have to decide to do that for themselves. And I don't know what it is that's necessarily going to take them to that decision, but it's got to be something, I said it last time, it's got to be something on the level of like the Super League, because the Super League was like the ultimate unifier. The only thing that sort of helped us in there was that obviously there was no fans in the stadium, so, the match-going fans couldn't go into there, and they didn't necessarily give up their season ticket. There was just no fans in the stadium, which is why they shit themselves, because nobody was in the stadium. They lost money from all the ticket sales, and then we got matches called off, or we got a match called off. So, if we could do that on a actual basis in terms of, it'd be even more powerful now than it was at that time, because if fans aren't going in the ground and people are canceling their season tickets, and then the people behind them that are vying for a season ticket doesn't buy them, they're in deep shit. They'll shit themselves. Richard says he's got to go. Well, all right, we'll see you later then. Take care. And we'll be back tomorrow, of course, because the match is tomorrow. We'll talk about the match as well in a little bit. So, sorry, I skipped a couple things here. So, let me go back. Box is a simple protest. Every fan, don't enter the stadium, leave it empty. And again, like on paper, Box, that sounds fantastic, yeah? But you have to sort of look at it as like every fan is an individual, and it's very hard to get an individual to sort of think that way. There's so many people in our fan base that they won't have that same concept. They won't have that same idea, or they'll have reasons as to why to not. Like when you listen to people that have season tickets, some of them have had that in their family for like 4, 5, 6 generations. So they're unwilling to give it up. And the problem with the season ticket is, obviously you pay for the whole thing. So the Glazers don't give a shit if you don't show up, because you already paid for the ticket. It would be the canceling and then the non-buying of it. But how do you get that message across to hundreds and hundreds of millions of people? How do you get them to actually be sort of... Because actually right now, listen, I like diversity and in opinion and thought and stuff like that, and we don't want like echo chambers, and we don't want like a hive mind. But for this goal, we would need a hive mind. We would need across the spectrum season ticket holders to do their thing. The people that go to Old Trafford that are sort of, just like one-time goers, that they come from all over the place, which some people might classify them as tourists or whatever they are. We would need them to not want to go, them not enter, them not buy tickets, them not be part of that. We would need people like the rest of us to, maybe not watch the match on TV, don't buy the merch from overseas. How do you get all these people, all these different people, how do you get them to do that at the same time? I think it's quite impossible. It's very, very hard. It's very, very hard. Lyle says, and that will never happen, sadly. The fan base is divided into stadium goers, social media warriors, and numb fans. Those who got the stadium, those that go to the stadium are there for the experience and its tradition. And that is part of the battle, that is part of the issue. And I think you are right. And I think Lyle puts it better than I've sort of been trying to explain it there. I mean, it is sort of, that is exactly how it's divided. I mean, it's stadium goers, social media warriors, and I would add probably another one, numb fans. And then you got people that are just like us, that, we don't live in the area. And we would gladly probably help in some sort of way of a protest. But at the end of the day, people that are numb, even me, sort of my mentality of this is where I was at a certain point, in that I see it a bit pointless, because, and it's, I'm kind of with the season ticket holders on this, in that the season ticket holders' main argument is, why would I give up my season ticket? When I give it up, somebody's just going to buy it, and all that's going to happen is I'm going to lose my season ticket that I've had in 4 generations of my family. And I used to argue against it because I'm like, no, because if you think like that, the next guy's going to think like that. But how do you get everybody to not think that way? You can't. Something has to happen at the football club for people to make up their own mind and say, all right, enough of this bullshit. The people that are waiting in a queue to get season tickets, waiting for somebody to cancel it, waiting for the club to take it away from somebody and give it to those people got to stop the need and want for that. And those guys are going to have to do the same. And then for me, it's like, like I personally won't do it. Like I won't buy the merch. But at the same time, it's like, if you're sitting there and you're saying, well, yeah, I'm not going to buy the merch. But it's a bit pointless if another 500,000 people continue to buy the merch. You're not doing anything. You're not, nothing's happening. Ray says, stop buying merchandise, hit their pockets. They don't buy players, don't buy merchandise. And I would say that, I mean, listen, if you're an online fan or, not even an online fan, just a fan from not in the area, if you want to do your bit, I would say the best thing you could do, there's two things in my opinion, and it would be, if you want to be hardcore about it, don't watch the matches and don't buy the merch. But the biggest one, I would say, don't buy the merch. And, if you want to try and lead that sort of thing, then go ahead and lead by example and try and get people to do that. But it's very, very difficult. It's very, very difficult to do. Simon says, I've been a fan for 51 years, another experienced Red. And I have seen and heard things about this club over the years that would make your hair curl and go gray and fall out. Well, don't do that to me because I am getting a couple gray hairs here already. I don't want really any more, and I definitely don't want my hair to fall out. So please don't do that to me. But I get what you mean. I get what you mean, Simon. And you know what? I wouldn't even be surprised. I mean, I'm sure there's all types of shit that has gone on at this football club that is just an absolute disgrace. Not buying anything would really hit the Glazers where it hurts in their pockets. It would. Listen, it would definitely make a difference. It would definitely have them, pissed. And I think, just big voices. Listen, ultimately, I think where it has to come from, where it really needs to start, is it needs the big voices. It needs the big channels. It needs the big sort of influencers. The problem is some of these big channels or these big influencers are paid by the football club. They are in the football club's pocket, okay? And some of them are what I would consider to be sellouts. So even in that direction, there is a war in itself. Because there are some that, whether it's they are indirectly sellouts. And listen, I don't think the Glazers or anybody at United come to them and say, listen, you guys have been speaking out against us. How about you don't do that? Here's a bunch of cash. I don't think it's like that. But again, you have to remember a lot of those people are Manchester United fans. You go from being a person sort of on the outside to having influence. They come to you and say, hey, listen, we like your channel. Would you like to do some things with the football club? And, people want to meet the players. They want to meet, maybe legends of the football club or stuff like that. So they work with the club. And they don't view it as working with the Glazers because they want to be involved with Manchester United. And then once you start that partnership, there's only so much you can say before they threaten to pull that away from you for saying things that they don't like. So it's a bit of a selling of your soul. And some people might be naive about it. And there's probably others out there that don't give a fuck because they just want, money, power, fame from it. Everyone in the chat, stay safe, says Richard. You too, buddy. You too. Axe says we need to take our club back and implement a fan ownership model. Again, Axe. I will agree on you on that. We need to take our club back in a certain way, but this fan ownership model is a fantasy that you will never get. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to say it, but it's just you will never get it. The Premier League wouldn't even allow it. The Premier League doesn't have one club that has fan ownership. It would never happen. And we're too massive for that to happen. There's just no way. We wouldn't get the money. Nobody has the money for it. And the Glazers are here. So, and you got to do business with the Glazers in terms of you would have to buy them out. So there's just no way that that's ever going to happen. We'll never get a pure owner, we'll never get a pure thing. There will always be a guy, even if he comes and offers it to you, there's always going to be a guy at the head of that. So it's never going to be true fan ownership. That's never going to happen. So don't you see they don't speak to us? Yes, I do. They influence the press and the public opinion of the fans from the shadows. I know they do. I know they do. If you moan about the Glazers but still attend games and have a season ticket, then it doesn't make sense. Well, again, I get that, and on paper, yes, Box, it does, but you have to listen to these people and their stories for it. So, it's a very difficult thing. It's why the Glazers are so successful. They have conquered and divided this fan base, and even on a deeper level, they have conquered and divided the Manchester United fan individually on an individual level. It's very hard for some people to try and it's very hard for some people to not support the football club and separate it and be like, I need to sort of turn, because the thing is they have this club by the balls. So for you to not attend matches, some people might be like, but this is my football club and I support it and I don't want to turn my back on the football club. I just don't like the owners. And it's hard for them to rationalize doing that because they're like, these people are not United. I support United. So to them, it's like, I'm not supporting the Glazers, but I'm not going to stop supporting my football club because of the Glazers. And that ultimately is where the divide is, like in the entire fan base. Sack the board, commencing with Wilcox. Well, no, I think we need to make a massive movement and get these guys out. And like I said, Simon, it's not about Wilcox and it's not about Barada, because ultimately you sack Wilcox, you sack Barada. There's a guy named Sir Jim Ratcliffe, and there's people named the Glazers that still will run this football club and they will still make decisions. And, if Wilcox is bad at his job and he shouldn't be in the position, well, Sir Jim put him there. And if Barada's bad at his position, or Barada, was helped put Wilcox in his position, well, Sir Jim hired him. So even if you get rid of Wilcox and even if you get rid of Barada, Sir Jim is still there. And, even if you get rid of Ineos and you get rid of Sir Jim, well, the Glazers are still there. So, ultimately it's the guys at the top, it's the head, that we need to get rid of. Because listen, what will happen is you sack Wilcox, like people will chant and cheer, but ultimately, let's say we sack Wilcox and Barada stays. Well, Barada was part of the reason why Wilcox is where he is anyway. So now we're trusting a guy that we don't really like or we don't believe in, and he's going to make a decision to get in a new director of football. Do we trust him to do that? And do we trust him to get it right? If anything, they most likely get it wrong again and we'll end up in another shit situation. Lucky says, Box, I don't go to games. I watch my football at pubs and bars, and Eos glazes out, fan. Well, again, listen, on an individual level, if you decide to take that, I mean, good for you, and I applaud you. And that's all I could really do, and I feel like that's all anybody can really do. On an individual level, based on, your sort of personal beliefs, you got to do what you got to do. So, I mean, if you truly despise them and you don't want to support them and you're willing to make the sacrifice and don't watch the games or don't buy the merch, good for you. And, carry on. And I wish you nothing but the best. And hopefully one day it reaps some sort of reward. But other than that, there's nothing more else that you could do after that. The Green and Gold campaign in the Red Knights' possible bid was around $29.10. If fans wanted to walk away and fight against the Glazers, they would have done so by now. If fans wanted to talk away, we have to put pressure on the board. Yeah, I know we have to put pressure on the board, but there's only really, again, like, the fan base doesn't, there's a lot of the fan base that they don't understand, and this is what I'm saying, like, it has to come from the people with the big channels, the big platforms that have a lot of people. It has to start with them, because they need to start the movement. Like, realistically, the 58, probably the United Stand, and a bunch of these other channels, they would have to come together, put their differences aside, and they would have to be putting out a unified message and a unified plan and push it out to the masses, so that people, because listen, there's people that watch the United Stand religiously, there's people that hate Goldbridge and hate the United Stand and won't watch it. But if they're coming together with the 58, if they're coming together with, obviously, like, Saeed has problems with them. If these guys are all coming together, what that does is it shows, like, the rest of the people, the rest of the fans, they go, wow, they're really unified. And, like, there's a clear message coming out that everybody is saying the same thing. And everybody's saying, boycott the games. Boycott the games from going to the matches. Boycott the games on TV. Don't buy the merch. And then people will be, like, fired up to follow through and follow suit with this, in terms of, like, all the online people, or people that, are online fans at all these platforms. Like, they will feel incentivized to not buy the merch, to not watch the matches on TV, because everybody is doing it. But if we don't get that, it's just a bunch of headless chickens running around screaming about different things to do, and we'll never actually move anywhere. And ultimately, the only pressure we can put on them is by fucking up their money. Fucking up their money is the only way we would win. If we can't figure out how to come together to fuck up their money, then we're never going to win this battle. Because ultimately, as we always say, to them, it's all about money. So unless you can actually hurt their money in a unified way, in a massive way, then nothing's really going to come out about it. So, Grace is here. Oh. Sorry, the chat keeps skipping, like, a lot, so, I keep trying to find my place here. I bleed Man Utd, says Simon. In my 51 years as a fan, the things I have heard about and seen is enough to make your hair go... Oh, I said that already. Simon says, to be honest, I've lost my hair. Well, listen, some people are okay looking bald. And no hair. I don't know what you look like, but I know plenty of people that don't have hair. They look alright. There's nothing wrong with it. I just don't think I would look that good bald. I don't think I have the head shape for it. Axe says we need a revolution. Well, I mean, to some sort, yes, but I'm not going to be the forefront of that. These guys have to be the forefront of it. Lyle says Ivory Coast out of AFCON tonight. Yes, I meant to talk about that, so thank you. Meaning Ahmad is on his way back, plus Mbuemo returning. This will help us. It definitely will. I meant to talk about that as well, so we're going to get to that. Simon says, since 2013, post-Fergie, this club has never really got on its feet properly. We never had the cash to buy decent players. Our stadium is falling apart, too. Yep, and that's because they went the commercialism route. So that's a headache for the next manager, how to fit the returning players. Well, listen, it comes with part of the job, Lyle, Grace says, what's up, dickheads? I fell on ice a few days back and got a concussion. Aw, I'm sorry, Grace. So I've been resting for the last 4 days. Hope everyone is out. What are we talking about? I hope you're okay, Grace, and you're not too badly hurt. And, I wish you a speedy recovery. And I'm glad you're okay, though, in terms of, like, I'm glad you aren't even more seriously injured, because you can get seriously injured from falling. And obviously, you hit your head. So we're glad you're okay, Grace. We're glad you're still here. So, I've known stories of people falling down, hitting the head, and, they pass away. So, yeah, we don't take that for granted. So, Simon says, we don't have enough in the kitty to repair a leaky roof. Our budget will be enough to buy a ton of Lego bricks to build a stadium. Well, listen, we do have, there are ways to get money into the football club. And if we had owners that were actually willing to put in money, their own money, we would be okay. The problem is we don't have those owners. We have owners that take $1 billion out of the football club instead of putting $1 billion into the football club. And we also have owners that don't give a shit. Because here's the thing. as United fans, I think we've all made this argument over the years as, we don't really understand, because it's like we say, well, like, if they want more money, wouldn't you just make it more successful? Because when you are successful, you make more money. You get bigger prizes, you get Champions League money, you get a lot of money for winning it, you get money for winning the Prem. So everybody always says, well, wouldn't it make more sense if they want to make more money? Wouldn't it make more sense to actually be successful? But actually, no, because somewhere they've done the math, and for them, whatever math they've done, it seems to check out. They don't need to necessarily be successful in that way to make money. They've quite clearly done it. We've been shit for the last 12 years in our based off of our standards. We've been shit, and the club value has increased to 4.6 billion. And we are one of 2 football clubs in the entire world that's on the Forbes list of top sports teams, franchises, as they call. So they don't need to be successful on the football club. On the football level, on the football aspect. They don't need it. And they're quite well aware of this. That's why they don't give a shit. Because they're still making money. Their asset is still going up in value without it. And probably somewhere along the way, if you really break it down, now I don't know all the numbers, but I'm just generalizing, and I'm taking a bit of a common sense guess here by looking at the picture. To build that is going to cost a lot of money. Yeah, there's no guarantee that you succeed with it, as we've seen. I mean, we spent our own money in $1 billion, and we pissed it away and burned it away. But there's no guarantee that you succeed if they put in all their money. And even if you do succeed, you then have to continue to spend money to maintain that level of success. And if I'm a guy that's just trying to pull money out of this football club and make the most money out of it, I'm looking at that and I say, well, that doesn't really sound like a way for me to go in that is going to make me the most money. That sounds kind of expensive. And it kind of sounds like something that's, to be quite honest, annoying to do. You're telling me I got to spend a bunch of money to go and win the Premier League. And then once I win the Premier League, I got to continue to spend more money to maintain this, because that's what they're going to demand. And that's what you need to do anyway. Or how about we don't do that, and we build the value of the club through another way, because we know how to do it, which is just pure commercialism. And we don't have to spend all that money. We spend a certain amount of money that balances our books, which we could get away with, because it's not like we're not spending any money, but we're spending some money. And, those are written off as like regular business expenses. And we'll go the other route, which is what they're doing, because this is what I think they're doing with the stadium, And this is why I think the whole thing is bullshit now, especially. I tried to give them a chance. And I kind of hoped that it wouldn't be bullshit and it wouldn't be for money. But when you back out of what you had, or, again, like, to me, it's just like, it's not about if Ruben was good or bad. To me, it's the ethos. It's not even the ethos. It's I don't know the word for it. It's just like, if you're going to come in and do a project, then follow it through. Like, if you're serious, follow it through and do the right things along the way. And if it doesn't work out, we could say, all right, well, it didn't work out and it was bad. But they showed the intent that they are at least, like, seriously trying to do it. But when you go down the route of what they did with Ruben, even hiring him and then doing all these things and how it ended, and backing out of it and trying to go in a different direction, it's just like, this is all a facade for this stadium. This is a facade to buy time so that you can get the stadium built. I don't even believe them anymore. That whole thing that they were like looking at it and they were like, well, should we rebuild Old Trafford, or, should we build a new one? I don't even believe them in that it's not worth it to redo Old Trafford. I don't believe them anymore. I think, looking back at it, these guys were always going to try and push to build a new stadium because the new stadium will make them the most money. It will make them the most money. Like, it might cost a little bit more, but you're getting a brand new facility. It's going to be way bigger. And when you get this new stadium, guess what? It's good for advertisement. It's good for business deals. It's way better. It's this new shiny toy that you get to wave in front of all these people's faces. I don't even believe them. I think you can probably, redo Old Trafford where it stands and keep it fantastic. But these are people that don't give a fuck about the heritage, the legacy, the football. They don't give a shit about that. They just care about making the most money. And if your sole objective is making the most money, well, fuck the tradition, fuck the history of that place, fuck the legacy of it, fuck it all. That's not important to us. So I don't even believe them in the decision that they've made in that. I think they've solely went in there, and I think they've lied to everybody, trying to say, well, it's not really worth it to do it, and if we do it, we're going to have to do it again in 5 years, and there's going to be complications with it, and the best alternative is to make this brand new stadium, and, forget about Old Trafford, we'll have New Trafford, or whatever the hell you want to call it, New Old Trafford. I'm on break, but I still fell on the ice. Simon says, it makes me wonder what they would have done to Chelsea had Roman didn't intervene. Yeah. You fell on ice on Friday, Axe. Well, I don't got no ice over here yet, so yeah. Eric barely looks good with hair, says Grace. I know. That's why I can't lose my hair. Can you picture what would happen if the Glazers took over City? The same shit. I can picture it exactly, Simon. It would look exactly like what we see. They would totally and utterly destroy the shit out of it. And it would fall from where it is. They would monumentally destroy it. It would be nothing. It would go back to being shit. And if they took it over from when they were nothing, well, they would still be nothing for sure. Box says, I know Fergie's power struggle with McManus and Mangier was over a horse. Yes, I know about that too. Of course, it's infamous of Gibraltar. But if Mag and Mac were truly United fans, like they said they were, they would have sold, but to the right people. Well, I mean, there was a whole thing that was like about that there was a whole situation of that. And listen, people make mistakes and people fuck up situations as well. So, listen, I don't know if you could say that they weren't fans or that they are fans, but quite clearly, it led to a bunch of fuck ups. I think there was a bit of a fuck up on Fergie's end. There was a fuck up from their end. And, ultimately, vultures, wait for their time. They wait for the right time to strike, and that's what the Glazers were. And they saw an opportunity. They saw holes. They saw, a time to make the move, and they did it. And they were right on the money about it because they were able to succeed out of it. So, and ultimately, we ended up getting fucked for it. So. Once my father had a cake in his hand, he felt on the ice and elbow dropped the cake. Well, yeah, my friend's done that as well. Love to have Elon Musk buying the club with loose change. I hope our new boss doesn't bring back the bomb squad, says Simon. I hope they doesn't either. I mean, the bomb squad is gone anyway. Pretty much. I mean, the only one that would be like Marcus Rashford. I think the other ones are gone anyway. And I don't think Marcus Rashford is coming back anyway because Marcus Rashford, I think, not only was it from Amorim, but I also think it was also from an Ineos standpoint as well. And I just don't think he has a chance. And I don't think he should want to come back either. So he's already gone. So Axe says no Musk. Grace says, I didn't die, but I just wanted to take my dog to the park, but I shouldn't have gone out. It was very slippery. Yeah, see, you guys got a lot of snow over there and stuff. We had that like a week or two ago, so. Fergie still had plenty of success under the Glazers, so their dealings were all hidden for a long time. Well, I think about that, and people say that all the time, and, you know, there are these weird people in the fan base. And I call them weird because I find it weird because I don't really understand the argument that they're trying to make. I do run into these people from time to time that are apparently Manchester United fans, that they say things like, well, Fergie succeeded under the Glazers, so it's not the Glazers. The Glazers have spent money. So, you know, what are you complaining about? You know, they weirdly almost protect the Glazers, and it's just like, do you live under a rock? You know, where the fuck are you living? Do you not see all the other things that they've done? You know, but then you try and talk to them and you're like, okay, you don't even know what a 4-4-2 is. So, you know, I don't know how much of a Manchester United fan you could possibly be because you don't seem to be a fan of football very much. A lot of them. But yeah, there's weird people out there like that say things like that. And it's just like, they protect the owners. They're like, well, it's their club. They get the right to do whatever they want with it. It's like, well, technically, yes, but that doesn't mean we have to accept it. That doesn't mean we have to like it. We can still tell them to fuck off. You know, like, technically on paper, do they own the football club? Yes. Technically on paper, can they do whatever they want because they're owners of it? And this is a free society? Sure. But we also don't have to agree with it. And this isn't fucking Tesco or something. You know, it's not like a shopping place. It's not a fucking supermarket or something. This is a football club. It provides entertainment to people and stuff like that. So, you know, these people are, I don't know. It's always weird that those guys exist. It's just like, you know, I feel like they could be trolls, but I don't know. The chat's chatting amongst themselves a lot today. Which is good. I like that. Simon says, I sympathize. That was to Grace. Legends have been created, history made in this iconic stadium, titles won, and lost on the ground, yeah. Were the Glazers actually born, or has Frankenstein gone mad? I think they're actually the real devils from hell. You know, and they've come to the Red Devils to take it over, and they've put the rest of us into hell. Cash says since 2014, United's decline stems from poor transfers, heavy debt, managerial churn, weak strategy, missed UCL income, and aging infrastructure. We spent $100 million in manager and $1.38 billion in transfers, and that's pretty much sort of the big picture that you have to do. And I think to put the cherry on top of that, Cash. The reason why all of that happened is because, again, to me, the way I view of how it went was, and we were just talking about Sir Alex, and I meant to try and make like a full circle to this. So, listen, when Sir Alex was there and they came in, the way I view it is they didn't really touch too much. You know, the club was already successful. They didn't have to do anything. They just came in to start taking the money. And reap off of the success that was already happened without them there. And we had very good people that were in place at the football club before the Glazers came in. And they sort of, listen, their whole thing is, and you've seen it, how they did it with Ed Woodward and Richard Arnold. And they did the same with Sir Alex. Like, they didn't want to change anything. They didn't need to change anything. And they just kind of let the football club continue to run the way the football club was. But the significant change, obviously, was as soon as Sir Alex went out and David Gill followed suit, those are the two main guys there. When you get rid of those two main guys, well, not get rid of, but when those two main guys go, that's the time you come in and you say, all right, now we're doing what we fucking want to do, you know? I always play this scenario in my head, and it could just be purely fantasy, but I always play this. It's almost like a movie scene in my head where it's like these guys are in the fucking shadows and they're just sitting there plotting this whole time. And they're like, as soon as this old fuck this old fart gets the fuck out of this club. We can finally do what we want. You know, we can finally do whatever the fuck we want. And they're just in the background scheming, you know? And that's what I feel like they truly view him as. They're just like, he's an old fart that's in our way. He's an old shitbag. And we need this guy to get the fuck out of our way so we can actually do what we want. Him, David Gill, all these other guys. As soon as these fucking guys get out of our way, because publicly we can't really do anything, right? And you know, it would be a disaster if they came in and they tried to, like, you know, change Sir Alex Ferguson, even though I think they did in a little bit of a way. But I think Fergie was kind of, I think they played in a way where Fergie was a bit, ended up on their side, because I think Ferguson did truly, you know, he's old school. And I think Fergie would look at January markets and be like, yeah, you know, it's shit. You know, it's overpriced, it's overinflated, it's not a good time to do business. I think Fergie truly believed that, but for the Glazers, that worked to their benefit because they don't want to spend money in the first quarter. So they're like, great, we got him. We don't need to fucking battle it out with him on this shit. You know, he already agrees with us in his own way. We didn't even have to try and force him to do it. So they went along with it. And I don't think that's a detriment to Fergie, because I think Fergie's looking at it from a purely, like, you know, football point of view. And that he's like, he thinks that the January market is pretty shit. He would still try and do business in it, but he's like, listen, we're not going to go crazy. And, you know, stuff like that. So, Simon says, in my town there are only 3 United fans, counting myself. The rest are Chelsea, Liverpool, and Arsenal. Where do you live? We should have had Ali after Ten Hag. Well, I always say we should have had Mourinho after Fergie. And obviously the Moyes was a mistake, but we listened to Fergie and we let it go. But, you know, in hindsight, we know it was bad and that shouldn't have happened. And we should have gotten Mourinho instead of Van Gaal. I think Mourinho should have came as soon as possible. Even though it ended the way it ended, I think the further we were getting away from that, and then when Mourinho came in, I was like, we needed Mourinho earlier. We needed Mourinho before we made the changes for, you know, when Fergie walked out the door. We needed Mourinho there because we needed somebody on his level of sort of a pedigree close to his level. And I don't think Van Gaal was, and certainly Moyes wasn't. And by the time, the way I see it is like, by the time Mourinho came in, we already made like a bunch of shit changes, and then it was already fucked for Mourinho. And then Ali came in, and now Ten Hag, and then, you know, Amorim, and, you know, Ranić, and now whatever guy comes in now. So, Lucky says, Erica will never accept any owners that doesn't want to play by the rules. Oh yeah, by the way, Simon, you have to tell us what town you live in if you don't want to, but I don't even know where that is. I can't pretend. Market Razin, if I pronounce this wrong, I'm sorry. Links. I don't know where that is. Small town, it sounds like, just because I don't know, I've never heard of it. I know some places in England, but basically for a decade, City have been dominant force, winning everything. But that's because they took our blueprint and they you know, they took our blueprint. You know what I kind of feel like when I look at it, it's like as soon as Ferguson retired, the Glazers took the whole blueprint that Fergie and everybody else that was with him throughout the years there. They took the blueprint, they crumpled it into a ball, and they threw it out of their car window while they were driving. Yeah. You know, and they got off the exit of commercialism. And Manchester City and the people that came in there, they were walking along the street thinking about, you know, how they're going to do things, and they found that blueprint crumpled up in a piece of paper on the side of the street. They picked it up and they were like, holy shit, this is great. And then they just took it and they took that blueprint and then they ran with it. And now obviously it's become like their own thing because of how long it's been. So they turned it into their own thing, but they took our blueprint, and that's why I hate it so much. because I have to sit here and watch my football club being run into a fucking disaster and being destroyed while I'm watching literally another team called Manchester from the same fucking place that were literally nothing. They were nothing. Basically, essentially, what they're trying to do is they're trying to replace us. They're literally trying to replace us. They are trying to fucking erase us and replace us. And there's nothing I can do about it. I gotta sit here and watch them win the league 4 times in a row. We've never done that. They fucking hold that over our head now. They have, what do they got? 7 or 8 Premier League titles now? So they're making grounds on catching up to us, and obviously they're in the better position to get more and get closer to us than we are adding to what we have. They've gotten Champions Leagues, or Champions League, and they're not far off in terms of they only need another 2 to tie us with that. And if we continue down the path that we're going, and they continue down the path that they're going, in the next 10 to 20 years, they will fully replace us in terms of accolades, in terms of accomplishments. There's some things they can't take away from us, like doing it first, but in due time, that will get erased. That will get forgotten if we don't ever come back. And yeah, they've literally, like, some people don't hate them as much. I despise them. I despise them because everything they do is to literally copy us and then do what we did and then try and do it better and then basically make us nothing. They're trying to turn us into nothing. They're trying to erase us. And I have to sit here and watch our club get replaced by another fucking club that essentially won the lottery. And it pisses me off even more because they could have bought any club. They could have bought fucking Hull City. You know what I mean? And turned them into what they turned them into. But it had to be fucking Manchester City. It had to be the club that was in the other half of Manchester. It had to be. Cash says, do you think Sir Alex preempted the situation where the club was headed and took an early retirement? There can never be any Fergie era anymore. At best, we can win the Premier League every 5 years, given we sign good. I mean, maybe a little bit. I don't think that was like his main reason. I don't think he looked at it and was like, it's all gonna go to shit now. It's time to get out. I think there was a lot of factors. I think his health was the biggest one because he always talked about that, and I trust him on that. And I think if he ultimately made the decision at the time he made the decision, I think it was his health was the biggest impact, or biggest factor for that. So, but it could have probably played a little bit of a hand in terms of, he didn't really like the way, or, he didn't like the way things were looking that they were going to start heading into. So I think it probably played into his decision a little bit more. But, I don't think there's anything to say, from 2012 to 2013 or even 14, it's not really that big of a difference if he stuck around. The big difference was that he actually left. So it allowed the Glazers to come in and do whatever they wanted to do. Because once a guy like Sir Alex is out of your football club, you can then make whatever change you want, because the legend, it's kind of like a movie scene where they try to like backstab each other, because it's like, if I could just get this fucking guy out of my way, I can do whatever I want. This guy is like stopping me from just being an evil shitbag and a greedy, just asshole. And as soon as he was gone, they were free, because even when you think back, like, listen, as like, if you look at the fan base now and you look at the fan base back in that time, I mean, did we know David Gill? Sure. Did we know a couple of the other guys up there? Sure. But was the majority of the fan base trying to be like accountants? Were we trying to be directors of football? Were we trying to be like sporting directors? Were we so heavily invested in, how is this club actually being run and these people doing the jobs? I was a bit on the younger side, so for myself, I can't really say I was. Maybe there were fans that were like that, and there was definitely fans that, were against the Glazers, didn't like how it was being run to a certain degree, and didn't want them there. But I think generally, the level we are at now, we certainly weren't at that level because we just trusted Sir Alex, we trusted David Gill, and there was a right to trust them because they were successful and they got things right. So we didn't have to worry about those things. But once he goes, that initial period, the first year, the second year, we're still sort of not paying attention because we didn't really have to pay attention to those things. We just needed to pay attention, what's going on the pitch, how are we playing, are we winning, what players do we think should be in or out, is a player playing good? Do we think this player is good enough for United? Should we go and get this guy? That's what we were more focused on. And while we were still focused on those things, these guys started making monumental changes that we weren't even paying attention to that were ultimately going to lead to the further destruction of our football club. And then once these changes already happened, we woke up a little bit too late to it. Maybe we could have stopped it, maybe not. But then we started paying attention more to it. And like, whoa, what's going on here? Like, who is this guy? This guy's a banker. Why is he in charge of the football club? What does he know? Why don't we have this proper structures? Why are we spending this amount of money? So we just got to that position where just, we started focusing more and we didn't really see it. Every manager we had, bar Ruben, who have won trophies, soon got shafted. Well, they all got shafted. They all get shafted. And I don't think it matters what you do. Because, again, listen, and this is why I say, like, no manager will succeed. Because you can win an FA Cup. And you can win, the Carabao Cup. And to a certain level, that is a certain level of success. But this fan base will always push whoever that is for more. And ultimately, if you can't get to winning the Premier League, if you can't get to winning the Champions League, well then you will get turned on. And when you get turned on, you will ultimately get sacked. So these guys, these managers, nobody can actually succeed. Because to succeed, you have to go and win the Premier League. You have to go and win the Champions League. And you won't get the time to do that. And the club doesn't run properly. And you won't get the resources, you won't get the backing. The club won't do what it's supposed to do to ensure that a manager can actually get there. And that's why I truly believe, and I've always said, it wasn't about Ruben. It's about the fact that go and get Ancelotti. I don't think the club will do the proper things so that Ancelotti can actually succeed. Go get Nagelsmann. These guys could be brilliant at their job. I don't think that the club will do the proper things to get these guys into the position to ultimately succeed. I think that they will all be left short. And when you are left short, you will ultimately at some point get fucked. Because people will turn your backs on you. Because you can only go so far. And there's a lot of people that they still blame. And their main focus is always the manager. And I'm just like, I don't view our club at that moment in time, I don't view our club at a place that we should be looking at the manager, because if the club isn't run properly, doesn't matter what manager you get, that guy ain't going to save us. And the way this club is going, it's only going to get worse because they're not, I don't think that they're going to get Ancelotti. I don't think that they're going to get a guy like Tuchel or Tuchel, whatever you want to call him. I don't think they'll go and get, I always forget his name, the manager at PSG. I don't think they'll go and get that guy because those guys demand authority. Those guys demand a certain level of respect. And I don't think that these people are looking to give that. I think what they want is a guy like Liam Rossenior at Chelsea. I think what they want is a guy that's like a coach that they can tell what to do and that is grateful to be there and isn't going to ask for a lot. The problem with that is that we're Manchester United. We're supposed to be a team competing and winning the biggest trophies. We are not fucking Brighton. And we are, it's okay for Brighton to do that. It's okay for Brighton to go get some guy that doesn't have a major pedigree. And, you build the squad and you coach the players and, maybe you have a good season and maybe you finish in some European football, maybe not or whatever. You know, but for us, it's not okay because you're not going to get the time. You're not going to get the backing. You're never going to reach that point. You're never going to reach that point. I think we should sign. Cash says, I think we should sign Anderson and Stiller, but also Neves, Hackney, and Garner. One left back, one cam, given we're going to play a 4-4-1-1, 4-2-3-1. Well, I will say this. I've seen us play shit. I've seen us play good, but I've seen us play shit in a 4-2-3-1, a 4-4-1-1. I'm a true believer in if you don't have the personnel, don't matter what system you play in, it ain't going to succeed. You need to have the personnel. That's number one. And I would also make the argument that if you look at it statistically, the 4-2-3-1, especially over the last, I don't know, let's say 10 years, 11 years, 12 years, maybe 15. But I wouldn't say 15. Definitely the last 10 years, for sure. The number one formation in football is a 4-2-3-1. It is the most used formation. It is the most successful formation. It is the formation that's been used to win league titles in the top 5 leagues in the world. It's been formations that have won Champions League the most over that period of time. So it is the most successful formation. We can't succeed using the most successful fucking formation. We haven't been able to succeed using the best formation that has been used in football, that has been the most successful formation in football over the last 10 years. So it's always about personnel. It's always about recruitment and how the football club is running. The other shit, that comes after. That comes after. You know, it's like the car. It's like the car. Why would you worry about the fucking tires when the engine is fucked? Why would you worry about, I don't know, the headlights when, you know, the gas tank or whatever, the fuel tank is fucked up and it doesn't hold fuel properly or something? So far this year, Chelsea and Celtic lost their managers and had them quickly replaced, but being United, we dither and faff even in the transfer windows because we're incompetent and we're run poorly, Simon. You know, we're run poorly. We're run very poorly. That's all that is. Years ago, we were the club that every defender feared winning everything, but now it's the complete opposite, finishing 15th last season, too many goals conceded and useless keeper in Onana. Well, yes. Yes. Well, my whole thing about that, though, is, again, we got to pick a lane, right? How do we rebuild? And again, how do you rebuild this football club in terms of what is the path that you do? Because people throw names out all over the place, and to me, it's always about what the plan is. It's always about the path. Because the goal is the same for everybody, right? Everybody wants to win the Prems. Everybody wants to be in Champions League all the time. Everybody wants to be winning the Champions League. Everybody has that ultimate goal. But for me, it's like there are people out there that say, let's get Areola or let's get Glasner. Okay. But when you do that, these people have to have an understanding that when you get that level of a manager, it's going to take a specific amount of time. It's probably going to be ugly, and it's not going to go very smoothly, and it's going to take years if you go down that route because of the level of manager, and you would have to stick with them and do the proper job. If you go with somebody more experienced, it should take less time. But because of our situation, it's still going to take it's probably going to take more time than it should. And expectations will obviously be way higher, but maybe we could achieve a lot more with a manager that has a higher pedigree. We could get further. But what is the actual way we're going to go about this? Because somewhere we have to make a decision. Because if you get a younger guy, right? And this is the thing about Ruben and shit like that. And this is what I was always saying. I didn't care really about the fucking 3-back. I didn't care if the football was ugly in the way it was, or even some of the results, because I understand there was some of the results were disgrace, and finishing 15th is a disgrace. But to me, it's like, if you're getting a guy like that, when you go through that process, it's going to be fucking shit. It has to be shit, because he ain't God. And anybody else that's on his level, I don't give a fuck I don't care if they've managed in the Prem. Like, for me, Areola is the same level as Ruben. Okay? He hasn't won a Premier League, he hasn't won a Champions League, and he manages Bournemouth. All right? Okay, cool, it's at the Premier League, and you can argue that it's a higher level than Sporting, and it's not the Portuguese league. Fine, but to me, that's not that big of a difference. They're at the same. Glasner is the fucking same. Okay? These other guys are the same. The only difference would be in somebody like Zidane or somebody like Ancelotti. They're two different levels of managers. So if you're going to go get an Areola, we still have to do what I was advocating for, in that it's probably going to end up being shit for a period of time. We're going to have to spend a lot of money, and that guy's going to need a lot of time to figure shit out. He's never managed a fucking club the size of Manchester United. He's never managed a club that's supposed to be winning Premier Leagues or wants to win Premier Leagues. So, you could be Ruben out. Don't ask me for Areola, because you're going to do the same shit you did to Ruben. You're not ready to go through that process. The club isn't ready to go through that process, because they just don't want to do things like that. You get somebody like an Ancelotti, well, now everybody's going to expect you to win the Premier League within 2 seasons. But I find that hard to do when the club is run like shit. I find it hard to do if the recruitment is bad. Where am I? Simon says we need a manager now with balls and try to get his club back to some sort of normality, if that will ever happen. But Simon, I would argue to a certain level, in certain things, I would say Amorim had balls. I think Mourinho had balls. I don't know if it's necessarily we need a manager with balls, because the club doesn't tend to like managers that has balls. They don't like that shit. And I to a certain level, I agree with you. Like, we do need some sort of authority guy like that, but we need the club to go along with it. And the club actually has to fucking actually back him. And like, there was some things like, bro, for me, like, some people will say Ruben didn't have balls, and I will say, well, for you to come in and toss Marcus Rashford out of the fucking team immediately because you didn't like what you got from him, or you didn't think he was a good player, I think that takes some balls to come into the club like that. You know, he's an academy player. You know, he's liked by a large majority of the fans. And that was sort of his first move. To drop Garnacho at the time he dropped Garnacho, when Garnacho was still favorably liked and he dropped him out of the team, that was a move that cost balls. To kick players out of the fucking club, to stand there and say you're going to play your system while you're struggling and you're getting your ass beat, I think takes balls. Some people will say it's stupid. Some people will say it's incompetence, but I still think it takes a level of balls, because that's what he believes in. And he is not changing because he's not afraid of you. So, or he's not afraid of what other people are saying. So I think that takes balls to do that, to sit there in that situation, to be in 15th, or to be losing matches, and to try and continue to do the way that you best believe, even though it might not be good enough. I still think it takes a certain level of balls. When you're getting criticized because people are criticizing you for not playing Menu, or not playing, certain amount of youth, I think it takes balls to stand there and to continue to do what you believe in. And that's just him because he's the most recent example. You know, I think they all have some certain level of balls. I think the problem is the football club doesn't back that shit. The football club doesn't get behind them. The football club doesn't help them see these things out. And what the football club actually does is, after a certain point, the football club turns their back on the manager and stabs them in the back and then kicks them out. I have the video, Axe. I will play it. For you guys that... let me just finish these comments and I'll play it. So, because I thought it was hilarious, actually. It was a very good video. So, Man United Planet says, in Sir Alex last season, he wanted Gareth Bale and Ronaldo, but Beck went to Real Madrid. He knew he wouldn't win the Champions League without them, and Real won it 3 in a row. He saved himself heartache. Maybe. I mean, listen, only he can answer that. Only he can answer that. So, ultimately, I mean, we could speculate about it. It could be a bunch of different things, but only he could give us the real truth about it, right? It was his decision. So, this year will be the annual bottling contest that Arsenal love. The last 3 games. I will laugh if Villa win the title. Well, I'll love if Villa win the title because it'll save us from watching Arsenal winning the title. It'll save us from watching fucking City winning another title. You know, Liverpool as well. So, Eric, me and my friends doing with 60,000 online and outside stadium to grow the club. Enrique, yes, that was the manager. I always forget his name for some reason, and I know his name, so it makes me sound like I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. But I don't know why I keep forgetting his name. I keep mixing him up with somebody else, and then my mind goes blank because I'm like, nah, it's not him. I don't know why he reminds me of somebody else, and I'm just like, nah, it's not his fucking name. Cash is Mbeumo and Ahmad back. How do you see? We play Bruno, Sesko, Ahmad, Cunha, and Mbeumo playing the same team. It's funny. Who would you drop? Well, I think for sure we're going to have to use Mbeumo and Diallo are the only ones that are actually like actual wingers. So if we're going to play a 4-2-3-1 or a 4-4-1-1, I think we have to see them on the wings because it makes the most sense. And then I think what needs to happen is... obviously, Bruno's got to play his position. He's got to play his, 10. And in the Burnley match, he did, and he got an assist, and that's where he belongs. And so I'm happy to see him back there. And then, I don't know, you got to figure out between Cunha, Sesko, Mason Mount, Xerxes, I guess. There's a couple different things, like Sesko. I would still start Sesko striker, especially because he scored 2 goals. So, let's continue him there because we spent a lot of money on him, and he's going to be the future, and we need to continue to develop him. I think the bench becomes a little bit more interesting because then you have the likes of, essentially from what I just laid out there, you would have the likes of Cunha, you would have the likes of Mount. You would have the likes of Xerxes on the bench. And then I think with Mount and Cunha, you could do a couple different things. I mean, Mount could be... and Mainoo. I'm forgetting Kobe Mainoo as well. You could do a couple different things with that. So you can put Cunha as a backup striker or whatever... for Sesko, or have them battle it out. Or, if Sesko goes back to struggling, you could maybe play Cunha up front. You can play Mbeumo as a striker to a certain degree. You could do a bunch of different things with sort of the players we have. You can have Cunha come on for sort of one of the wingers and have him play a little bit more inside forward-ish instead of maybe an out wide player. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting. I mean, Fletcher's going to be in charge, obviously, for the match tomorrow. So, I think we'll see a little bit similar, and they won't be available. So it's a little bit less of a headache, but then obviously it matters about who's going to take over. And I think, the way Carrick plays is a little bit different to Solskjaer, so there would be sort of a different demand of some players in different positions, because Carrick's a little bit more possession. He's a little bit more possession than Ole. So, and it would play a bit different. They would still use the same formation. It would just play different. So based on how they would play, depending on who it is, would dictate ultimately where the players are going to be and who you're going to see and who's going to start and who's not. But it is a headache, and it's a difficult one to sort of figure out, especially with everybody coming back now. So we definitely don't want Southgate now. I mean, listen, if Southgate ever became our manager, which he's not, because the only reason why Southgate was ever linked to us is because Dan Ashworth. And Dan Ashworth is no longer at the football club. So, Gareth Southgate will never be our manager, because those guys are, as incompetent as they may be, they're not going to hire Southgate, because, I mean, we would be getting Southgate links right now. The Southgate links are absolutely dead, because they just are. I mean, so we play our bogey team Brighton in the cup draw tomorrow. I bet Welbeck will score. Well, I want this game because I don't want an easy route. I don't want us to slide by any sort of easy way there. I want actually, and people might say I'm crazy for this, but I want the most difficult, hardest path. And if we lose, we lose. I don't give a shit. I want the most hardest and difficult matchups possible, because we need to continue to be tested. We need to continue. This team needs to learn to go and actually fight and get through hard things. Listen, this team doesn't need an easy road. Okay, we're not in competitions anyway. It's not like we're playing 3 matches a week. We don't need to be like City and play, whoever the fuck they played, Exeter City, and destroy them 10-1. Would it be good? Sure. But is it going to do us any good in the long run? No, because we're not being tested. When it's we need to be tested. It's good for them because they're playing an easier opponent. They could rest a bunch of players, and they can worry about the Premier League matches and the Champions League matches that are going to come up that they're in. No, we're a team that needs to learn how to actually get over the line. We're a team that actually needs to overcome some sort of adversity in matches. And we need to struggle. We need to figure out how to overcome the struggle. So I want the most difficult opponents. So give us Brighton, and let's beat Brighton, and then give us the next most difficult team that we could possibly get. Because they need to learn how to succeed through this. And it needs to be shown that they're either going to prove that they're good enough or they ain't good enough. And the only way you prove if you're good enough or you ain't good enough is by playing the best and not playing against some shit small team. But I already know the answer to that. I mean, we struggle against the shit small teams, and our wage bill is 6th in the league, and we're sitting in 7th. So we are drawing or losing against teams we should be beating, such as Wolves and Burnley. Well, we say that because of the kind of club that they are, but I don't think that the team is well put together, and I don't think the team is good enough. So I'm not surprised that we necessarily are. I mean, it's kind of a disgrace from a Man United standpoint, from the bigger picture, but I've always said I don't think the players are good enough. I don't think the squad is good enough. I don't think it's well put together. I think there's a lot more work. I think that's irrespective of the manager. And we have a lot of work to do. Renoso is here. So what's up, doggy? What did I miss? Just a good conversation. We were talking really about like the Glazers and Ineos, and sort of if we could get our club back, and a little bit of Carrick, a little bit of Ole, a little bit about the transfers, just a little bit of everything. Our biggest nightmare was always will always be Grimsby match. But listen, we lost that shit on penalties though. So, and I always said from that, listen, if we're talking about we should be beating teams like Wolves and Burnley and blah 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 blah. Well, I always said we should be beating Grimsby without a manager. We should be beating Grimsby by just the players going out there on the pitch themselves. They don't need instructions. They don't need a pep talk. They don't need to be galvanized. They should be able to go take it upon themselves to go out on the pitch and go beat Grimsby. So, again, this is like this thing to me is like this the team itself is just not a good team. It's just not put together well. I wonder what formation Fletcher will use tomorrow and who will play. I think he's going to use the same formation he used against Burnley. I think he's going to change it. I think he's going to play his formation that he played. Max says we need to win. Simon says even if we get Ollie until the end of the season, people still think we'll finish fourth. We won't. My choice in the top four, not in this order: City, Arsenal, Villa, and Liverpool. We will finish fifth or sixth. Well, fifth will get us Champions League football. Sixth will get us Europa League. So I mean, if we finish fifth, we still get Champions League. But with Ollie, I think getting Ollie is not a good idea, because with Carrick, I think the fan base will look at it and say, okay, we haven't done anything with Carrick, so this whole thing is new. And if it goes bad, it goes bad. And, it's whatever. If it goes good, it goes good. And we're sort of in a new situation because Carrick is his own guy. You know what I mean? And he'll make his own different decisions. With Ollie, because we already done this, if it goes bad, I think it's going to cause a lot more sort of mayhem. It's going to cause more divisionism. It's going to cause sort of a worse situation around the football club in terms of, listen, if it goes bad with Ollie, you already know that there's going to be a good percentage of the fan base that's going to start attacking people for wanting Ollie. They're going to start attacking Ollie again. They're gonna roll out the PE teacher thing. They're gonna say he's fucking shit, and they're gonna be highly pissed. And it's gonna get probably very turbulent, more turbulent than if you gave Carrick or Fletcher the job, because at least they're new. So people would be less remiss to be pissed about them. With Ollie, we've seen this before in terms of like he was already here. So if it goes bad, it's just going to rile people up even more, and it's going to cause even more divisionism. Now, if it goes good, there's also a flip side to that. I think the people that didn't want Ollie to lose his job or didn't want him to get sacked or always felt like he shouldn't have, or they wanted him to come back. If it goes good, well, those people are going to do the same but opposite. They're going to flip it around on everybody. They're going to throw it in everybody's face. They're going to, say, fuck you, you were wrong. And but then it also leads to the point of that, well, he could very well get the job, which I think is a mistake on a permanent basis. And I don't think, again, like for me, it's like, well, look at Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, look at his pedigree, look at his CV. He might be a guy that is a legend of the football club, and he might understand Manchester United. And I'm telling everybody, it is not enough to just understand Manchester United. It is not enough to just get this football club. The football club still has to do recruitment well. It still needs to back the manager. That guy would need time. He would need plenty of time, because Ali, to me, is no different than Ruben. No different than Ruben. He's no different. They're the same fucking level of a guy. They've never won the Premier League. They've never won the Champions League. They've never won a league title. Well, Ruben won a league title in Portugal, but Portugal's not considered the top 5 league. So, but yeah, they've never done these things. They're not Antonio Conte. They're not Enrique. They're not Hansi Flick. They are a similar type of manager, and with those managers, there's a certain type of way that you have to go about that. And if you're not willing to go about that, then we shouldn't have these people at our football club. I don't care who it is. It's not going to work. When you go down that path, there's only really one or two ways that goes, and I say one because it's the only one that I can think of the top of my head right now at this moment, and it's that. The things that I was arguing for Ruben. I was like, it could be shit right now. But I was like, we need more change. We need more things. We need more players. We need different players. We need better recruitment. It needs more time. And it's going to be the same for all of those guys because they all fit under one bracket. They're all the same. Even if we give Carrick the job, which I would be more inclined to do so, I would still say, well, to me, Carrick understanding United doesn't mean fuck all if you're not getting him good players. You know, what's he going to do with that? Oh, I played under Sir Alex and I know what it is to be a Manchester United player. Great. Here's a pile of shit. Go turn it into something good. You know, in 2 years' time, he'll be fucking gone. He'll be gone. For me, the plan is simple. Get high class 15 to 16 first team players and train the academy the same way. Next, the commanding manager like Conte, Unai, Tuchel, get Van der Sar director of football, and next new owners. Well, we're not going to get any of that with those owners. So we would need to get new owners. Van der Sar, I don't know if he could do the job because he had a serious health problem that happened to him. I don't know if he had a brain aneurysm or I forgot what it was, but is he even doing the job at Ajax? Did he go back to that? Last time I saw him rock climbing, so I know he's like good enough to be able to do that. But the level of stress, and if he has a health condition, might actually kill him. So I don't know if he could even actually do the job. So I don't even know if we could get Van der Sar. The club don't want Van der Sar because Van der Sar has been highly critical of the Glazers, and the ownership. And I think also Van der Sar is a smart guy. And I think Van der Sar is a guy that has a certain level of self-respect, and he views it as I would love to help Manchester United. There's no fucking way I would ever work for the Glazers or for Ineos. For me to take the job, you're doing a deal with the Glazers. You're doing a deal with Ineos. Okay? So whoever takes the job, you are willing to do a deal. And this is what I'm saying. Like, Ali says, like, well, I want to do it. I want to help Manchester United. Okay, but Ali has also come out and said good things about the Glazers. He's friendly with the Glazers. So that's why he's in consideration. That's why Roy Keane will never have a chance to manage this football club because he's spoken out against all of them. They will never let him come because he is not in their pocket. Ali is in their pocket to a certain degree because he's just a nice guy. He's friendly with everybody and he genuinely just wants to help United. He's not going to pick a fight with anybody. He's not going to make an argument, you know. And I think even Carrick to a certain point, because he was there, but Carrick ended up leaving and he didn't come back and he didn't want the job. So Palace were beaten by Macclesfield today, so that could trigger Gahey's departure. Yes, they were. And Simon has left. So thank you, Simon. Appreciate it. We will be live tomorrow. If you're still here, we'll be live. I'm thinking about doing a watch along, but I might not do a watch along. I think I'd take a break from the watch alongs because it's kind of hard for me to do both. I'm a one man guy. Obviously, but what I'm trying to say is I'm a one-man team, so it's hard to do the watch-alongs and then do the Red Devil recaps after. To set up both and do the thumbnail and be on time and stuff like that. What time is the match tomorrow anyway, by the way? So, because I don't even know. What time are we actually playing? Because I actually don't even know. We are playing. Okay, so it would be... what is that? That's 4:30 UK kickoff. So, and we're the last ones. I mean, Listen, we'll be live for the Red Devil recap for sure. You know what I mean? Maybe I'll do a watch along, maybe, but no promises. So I'll see how I feel about it. I'm a bit tired as well. Like, I'm exhausted today, so I might just relax because it's a lot of work. I got to set up the live stream for that. I got to do that. That's like 2 hours, 2.5 hours of streaming. Then I got to end that. I got to set up the whole thing for the Red Devil recap after to talk about the match. That's like another hour and a half. It's, you know, it's a lot. So, I don't think I'm going to do a watch along. But definitely we will be live after the match to discuss the match and discuss the result and break it down and share our opinions and share our thoughts, and hopefully we get a win. Yaya United says, just got here. Why in the hell are they taking this much time to deciding on an interim? How much time would they take if they want to appoint a permanent one? A long time, because they weren't planned for this, Yaya. This wasn't the plan. Listen, I don't know, you know, everybody has like their own source of news and stuff like that, so I don't know who you guys get your stuff from, but the story that we have, which is like the most direct story that we got, is they weren't going to sack Ruben. Anybody that thinks they sacked him for results is wrong, because they would have sacked him way before. They didn't want to sack him because of the money. They didn't want to pay him. They wanted to finish out this season. And see, me and them are different on this as well. Like, because I'm still mad. I would still be mad even if they left him to the season and they came out and they were like, yeah, we didn't want to sack him then. We just wanted to get to the end of the season, so we paid less money. I'd be like, you guys are fucking assholes, because you started a plan and a process and you didn't follow it through. And I wanted to see if it would work or not. And you decided to cut it out one year in. So you fucked up all over the place. But what I'm saying is that they sacked him because he spoke out against him. They sacked him because him and Jason Wilcox fought with each other. And they fought with each other because Jason Wilcox took it upon himself to try and tell Ruben Amorim to play a certain formation that Ruben was never going to play. And he, you know, if he wanted to do that, then they should have never hired Ruben, and they should go get somebody like Rosenior and tell him what to play. You know, hire Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and tell him what to play. Or Darren Fletcher and tell him what to play. If that's what you're going to do, which I don't think they should, because I think that's fucked up. But yeah, there's different ways to go about that. So they didn't want to sack him. They weren't prepared to sack him. They didn't, I don't think that they knew that he was going to do, well, I think it's clear that they didn't know that he was going to say the things he said in that press conference. They then made the decision to sack him because they couldn't stand that, right? And when you do that, they weren't prepared. So they didn't have alternatives. So that's why they're taking so long, because they literally were not going to sack him. They literally were going, listen, they looked at it and they know the situation, and they were like, even with Ruben losing, like, you know, not beating Everton or drawing to West Ham or drawing to Wolves, and those results are bad or they're shit or they're disgrace, whatever, however you want to describe them, they knew that, yeah, we'll be somewhere in and around it, and hopefully he gets Champions League. And I think that's why they were trying to push the formation on him, because they were like, listen, if you play the most successful formation, it's a more balanced formation. We should be able to sneak into a Champions League spot without spending money, and then we can probably sack him in the summer at the end of the season, which is when they would have wanted to do it, because the season is over. They didn't want to make a change in the middle of the season and make the same mistake like they did when they did for Ten Hag, because it causes a mess and it's hard to do. And there's a bunch of managers that they're not going to be available till after the summer. So this is the whole thing. Like they fucked up the whole thing, and this is why they're taking so long. So they should be able to hire a permanent manager in the summer quickly, because they have all this time and they should be prepared for it if they're doing that thing. But the interim thing, I mean, they weren't prepared for any of this. They didn't they had to get their shit together, call up a couple people, have discussions over them, come and interview them, and then make a decision on it, which is why they take it so long. They put ads about how to overcome. I don't know what to tell you. That was a good stream, good pointers looking. Well, we're not like, I mean, if you leave, you leave, but, yeah. So if you left, Cash, appreciate it, and we'll see you on the next one. But we're leaving in a couple minutes, so if anybody has any points they want to get across, you don't have to like necessarily say directly to what I'm talking about. If you have any sort of final thoughts, we got like about 5-10 minutes, and we're gonna end. There was just a couple things that I wanted to bring in, that we didn't necessarily talk about that I just wanted to touch on. So weirdly, we didn't get any updates about, because the club were supposed to hold the talks with Solskjaer today, which I assume they did, because that's what they told us. But we didn't, we haven't gotten any update about it. Only updates that we've gotten is, again, the same old, and I'm so tired of this story. I'm so tired of it, and it's Fabrizio again, and I'm just like, shut the fuck up. Again, 35 minutes ago, Fabrizio, Manchester United have identified Elliot Anderson as a leading target, with Baleba also high on their midfield shortlist. Any potential move for the midfielder is likely to be delayed until the summer. It's like, holy shit, dude. You've been giving us that update for like 3 months straight now. We get it. We're not getting them till the summer. Move on. I don't want to hear about fucking Elliot Anderson. I don't want to hear about Baleba. I don't want to hear about Wharton. We get it. We're not getting them. Fucking stop telling us it's literally the same words. Like, stop, bro. I'm going insane hearing this shit. We get it. All you had to do was tell us one time. It ain't happening in January. We're going to do it in the summer. And we're not even going to do it in the summer if we don't have a good finish. So, I don't give a shit. We'll figure it out when we get there, I guess. But damn, man, I'm so tired of hearing it. Ahmad and Buemo are back, but they will not be back for the match tomorrow, so they should be back for the Manchester derby, which will be in a week, and we should have at least a interim manager, a permanent interim manager by that time as well. And then we got to see what comes out of that, because I don't know. Depends who they pick. And I'm just looking at it and I'm like, well, if we go and play City and we take the absolute piss with a guy that's going to be there for 1 week to work on this fucking game plan against City, it's like, am I going to have a go at Ali or Carrick? No, I'll have a go at these idiots for making the decision that they made and putting us in this position. Now there was a conspiracy theory, so I guess I'll sort of hit this conspiracy theory. But there was a conspiracy theory going around the other day, saying that maybe Ruben was going to end up at Manchester City because there's been talk about Pep leaving, and apparently Ruben was still hanging around England and Manchester. He was photographed the other day; he was still there, but. Apparently they've seen that Ruben Amorim has returned to Portugal. They were trying to say, oh, Ruben's staying in England because, his former sporting director or whatever, or director of football that was at Sporting is now at Manchester City. So they were trying to say, oh, maybe he's hanging around because he's going to take over for Pep because that guy's going to bring him in there. And yeah, I guess maybe you don't have to worry too much about that because he's gone back to Portugal. I mean, he could always come back, I guess. I guess. But I don't even think Pep's leaving. So I don't even think that's a thing. I don't think Pep is leaving. So. But what I would say is, if that was to happen, we would ultimately, I feel like we would fucking deserve to watch him go there. They're going to give him a shit ton of money. They're going to get all the players that they would need to get him for the system to actually work. And if he succeeded and we had to watch that, we deserve that. You know, we deserve that. So, but I don't know. That could never happen. Maybe. I guess we'll find out. You know, when Pep actually decides to leave. Yeah, Thomas Frank's getting sacked, and thank God we didn't hire him because it would have been the same shit. Now, somebody put this out, interestingly enough, and I disagree with a lot of what this guy says because he usually says a lot of dumb shit, yeah? But this guy said there seems to be a pattern among Man United fans. The ones who backed Ruben Amorim are the same ones who rate the likes of Thomas Frank and Glasner. I don't. And do they know the club they support is Manchester United? And I will say that there are probably some people like that for sure. But I definitely never rated Thomas Frank or Oliver Glasner at all. And I don't want them. And I don't even know if that's 100% true because a lot of them hated Ruben Amorim and they said that Glasner and Frank would be better. So, yeah. I don't even see how the people that, you know, who backed Ruben, why would they be wanting a manager in Thomas Frank or Glasner when those guys were used to shit on they were used to shit on Ruben anyway, so I don't think it makes sense, but yeah. Gary Neville said something, and he said a lot, but Gary Neville said on who should replace Amorim, he said, with the last 12 years being a period of massive underperformance for United managers. I mean, right there, Gary, I just gotta fucking stop you right there. Underperformance from the football club. You know, this is where I disagree with these fucking guys saying things like this, man. Okay? The football club is run like shit, Gary. You are in bed with the Ineos. Fucking call it how it is. Don't say massive underperformance for United managers, okay? Because ultimately, the managers all fail because the club is run like shit. So they can't succeed. And the same will be true for whoever we get. Now, I will continue to his quote. There are certain boxes this next candidate now needs to tick. Says you have to be able to handle the media and the noise that comes with this club. It is what it is, so get over it and deal with it. It's why you're getting paid the big bucks. To a certain level, I agree with that. You do need to be able to handle that. I would also go down to put that to any fucking player we signed. They need to be able to handle it. But also, Gary, you're part of that, and maybe you should fucking tone it down a little bit, being a fucking, a legend of the club and an ex-player. You know, you don't have to necessarily join in. Why you gotta do the same shit that Simon Jordan does at Talk Sport? You don't have to do it, but you do it. He goes on to say you have to show that you can have success getting into the top 4, that you can cope with Champions League football, and that you can get the best out of the group of players that will include egos and superstars. That's all very good. Gary, we don't have fucking superstars. What superstars do we got? We're not getting superstars. We have superstars? We don't have superstars. Who is a superstar in our club? There's not one player that I would name a superstar besides maybe Bruno Fernandes. And I wouldn't even deem him as a superstar because he doesn't necessarily have the ego of a superstar. Okay? So, but sure, we need somebody that can handle egos and superstars. You know, you're describing a manager, Gary, because that's what managers do. Coaches don't do that. Coaches don't handle egos and superstars, okay? Because coaches, it's their way or no way. So they're not there for egos. They're not there to manage. That's what a manager does. Managers manage. Coaches, they don't manage. So, you know, it depends what we're going to get. And I just feel like we're not going to get a real manager. We're going to get a coach. And if we get a coach, well, it's a different story then. He also said, you must understand the Premier League and English football culture because it's different to competing in many of the European leagues. I mean, kind of makes sense, yes. You have to understand the Manchester United way, which means you have to be glass half full kind of manager, be positive, and prepared to take risks and play with the pace and excitement. In all likelihood, that is going to a variation of a 4-4-1-1, 4-2-3-1. And then said you have got to be pretty special to tick all four of those boxes. And as such, the outstanding candidate for me would be Carlo Ancelotti, even if it would mean potentially delaying his arrival until late July. If Brazil reached the World Cup final, no one comes in as close to fulfilling everything laid out above than he does. And I agree with that. I think Carlo Ancelotti is probably the top guy out there that we could get that does tick all those boxes. The problem that I have with this is that he can tick all of these boxes, and if the football club still runs the way the football club is run, Carlo Ancelotti will get fucking sacked by this football club, and he will fail. He will fail to produce. He will fail to succeed, because you can tick all those boxes, but if the football club doesn't do what the football club is supposed to be doing, then how can he succeed? So, I don't know where we're going. You know what I mean? I don't know where we're going. Reynoso says exactly. It's the exact opposite. Fans that rated those fucks are the shiny new toy fans who always prematurely push for us to sack the new manager. Well, yeah. And they're gonna continue doing that anyway. So Gary understands our DNA. He's our captain. Yeah, but Gary is also a fucking hypocrite. Axe. Gary Neville is also full of shit because he says one thing and then says the other thing, and it's all based on what kind of guy is there. And he's wrong loads, and I don't actually agree with him on his statement. Like, on paper, yes, it makes sense. But if you're not going to talk about the rest of the football club being run, if you're not going to put that checklist of the manager, if you're not going to put that in together with the other picture of the rest of the football club, well, then you're just saying a bunch of random shit that's not going to mean anything. You can get the most perfect motherfucker in charge at Manchester United. If we don't recruit properly, if these guys don't back the manager properly, if they don't do the things that they're supposed to be doing as directors of football, as CEOs, as head of recruitment, as head of youth development, if they're not doing the things that they are supposed to be doing, that manager that ticks all those boxes, he'll lose his job. It might not happen in one season like it did to Ruben, because Ruben had a lack of, experience, and he played a completely, totally different way. But it'll happen after 2.5 or 3. We've had no manager last over 2.5 seasons. I don't see any grounds at this football club to encourage me that even if we signed Carlo Ancelotti right now and put him in the job, there's nothing that would give me confidence that's going to say he's going to be here over 2.5 years. There's nothing that's going to make me feel like, and it has nothing to do with him. It has nothing to do with because I don't think he can do the job. It's because the rest of the football club is still going to be shit. And this is why I always say it's not about the manager. It's about everything else. We worry about the manager too much. We don't fix the rest of the other shit. And to me, there's no way for me to accept that. I can't sit here and worry about the manager and say this manager isn't at our level when the rest of the football club is run like dog shit. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all. Part 2 interview out now. No JJ Gabriel in the squad. Wasn't Amorim asked continuously to get him in the squad? JJ Gabriel cannot play for us, Cash. Well, I guess he can. Is he allowed to play for the FA Cup? But he can't play for us in any other manner. I don't know about the FA Cup thing. I think he might have been able to play the FA Cup, but he literally can't play in anything else because of his age. So he can't play in any Premier League game or anything like that. I think they said that he was allowed to play the FA Cup, but I mean, with the players that we're getting back and sort of the level of it, I don't think there's any need to push him into there. I've heard enough from ex-players of manager appointment. Many fans don't care who is going to be our next manager because we'll be back to square one with this management. We need to start from the top, and that's sort of what I say. Like, you know, and that's why I always find like the whole thing just, you know, a bit pointless. I find it a bit pointless. Like, I look at these people that like get so fussed up over the current manager, and then they start having a war with other fans over the manager, and they start saying that, like, you know, this manager isn't good enough, this manager isn't good enough. And I'm like, listen, you might be right. Like, you might actually be right. Like maybe I won't even argue against you on that, or maybe I would. But I was like, I don't even want to have this conversation because it doesn't fucking matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Like, you could be 100% right. It doesn't fucking matter. You could be 100% wrong. It still doesn't matter. Like, every guy that I see coming into this football club, it doesn't matter who they go get. That's why I'm not excited by it. That's why I can't be excited by it. That's why I can't be positive about it. I can't be anything about it. Because I just view it as, no matter who, you can literally name me anybody, and I will tell you, even if I tell you I like that guy and I think he's a good manager, I just view it as, but it doesn't fucking matter, does it? Because they're going to get fucked. They're going, whoever you pick, I just know that they're going to get fucked. So what is the point? What is the point in going and getting Ancelotti? You know, what is the point in going after Ruben Amorim and saying he fucking sucks and he's incompetent and he's a shit manager and yelling to go get another guy? What is the point of that? Because the other guy is just going to get fucked as well. What's the point? I don't see one. I generally don't see one. This is why we have to go for the Glazers and Ineos. Not even Don Carlo will save us. We need a fan ownership model. Again, but we're not getting a fan ownership model, so. We're not getting a fan ownership model. When the Glazers actually leave this football club, if they leave this football club, if they don't stay for another fucking 40 years. I mean, I don't know how old these people are, but, you know, let's see. Joe Glazer. How old are you, sir? 58. We're fucked. Joe Glazer's 58. Avram Glazer is 65. Well, that's no bueno. Yeah, because Joel is the one that's fucking... I think Joel is worse than Avram, even though obviously they're both bad, but Avram is fucking older. So, I mean, you would expect Avram to go first, just by process. And when I say go, I mean die, like of old age or whatever. You know, they're getting older. So, but I mean, there's still, listen, in today's time, Avram could live to fucking 90, man. You know what I mean? That's another 25 fucking years. And Joel is 58. So, you know, that's another 32 years. I don't know when these guys are going to fucking go. You know. By the way, Joel's net worth is 1.7 billion. Yeah? And so is Avram's. I guess it's together. They have the same exact net worth. Because I guess it's all tied into one. But yeah, I mean, listen, we're fucked. In that degree, because I think they're married. They have spouses, but I don't know if they have children. Because if they have children, we're even more fucked. Because they'll probably just pass it down to them when they die. And then we got to pray and hope that the kids just say, fuck this. We don't want any part of this. But, yeah, I mean, listen. I don't know. Like, if they sell Axe, even if we did some like crazy, you know, we went and we smashed up all their offices and we fucking, you know, held them hostage or something or whatever, some crazy shit, you know, we went insane and, you know, we burned shit and all that, and then we forced them to sell. Like, you do realize that it's just gonna go. It has to. The club automatically has to go to another billionaire. So it'll never go to fans. It'll never go to fans. And if there's a guy that's a billionaire that promises to give it to the fans, good luck with trusting that. Because there's no way that they're gonna do that. So, because they would have done it by now. I would sell it for $4 to $5 billion and go into retirement. Why aren't they selling? Because Cash, you are, and I'm not saying this to like disparage you, and I'm gonna include myself into it as well. But you, Cash, you are a normal person, yeah, and so am I, and so is everybody else. And we sit here and we say, you know, why wouldn't you just sell it for fucking $5 billion and fuck off, yeah, and go do other things? But that's not these people. They are not like us, and they know that. And that's why they look at us as shit. And that's why they look at us as, you know, fucking specks of dirt. We are insignificant to us. They don't get, like, listen, if there was some tragedy, right? And God forbid there's no tragedy, but I'm just saying, if there was some sort of tragedy that happened with the United fans and a bunch of them got killed or died in a horrible way, yeah? Like in today's time, they don't give a fuck. They're not going to feel remorse. They view the world population. If you're not a billionaire, you are a waste of space. You are a waste of fucking resources. You are a waste of fucking oxygen. That's how they view people. So they don't give a fuck. And the thing is the way they are, it's like, that's just how these business people are. These very high level business people, okay, that's just what they are. They don't look at it like that. They don't look at this, I take 4 or 5 million, because listen to what they tell you. And this is what I tried to explain to people. Stop thinking like yeah, I know it's hard maybe for some people because you're not that, so it's hard to maybe try and think from that perspective. But you kind of almost have to trick yourself to a certain level. You're not a common sense then it's not from like an everyday ordinary human being common sense perspective. Okay, they look at it and they go, if I sell the club for $5 billion, I'm losing $5 billion. Okay, they don't look at it. Everybody else that's a normal regular person goes, once you explain the situation to them and they're like, so they bought the club for free on a bunch of debt. They put the debt on the club. They never have to pay it back. So whatever they sell, and they already took out $1 billion and they got it on the stock market and they pay themselves dividends, right? So when they sell the club, all of it is essentially, it's like FFP. It's like pure profit. It's pure profit, whatever they sell it. So everybody is like, well, how come you haven't sold? And it's like, because they don't look at it like that. They don't look at it in that way at all. They're looking at it like, we've made 4 or 5 so far. We can make another 5 out of this fucking thing. If I sell it now, I'm losing $5 billion, because they truly believe that they can sell it for 10 or 8, whatever it is. And if they sell it now, in the business world, in the, you know, these high elite level, that is a loss of money. And also, it's a cash cow, but also it's passive income. You have to understand as well. You know, I don't know if you know about passive income, but just think about it in a way of like, let's say you had a business right? Let's say you owned a business, Cash. And this business, you didn't have to do anything for it. You just fucking owned it and you got people to run it and it makes you a bunch of money. And every day you wake up and you look at your account or you look at, the value of the business and it just keeps going up and you keep making money from it and you're not fucking doing anything. You're barely doing anything. Would you get rid of that? Or wouldn't you just keep it and let it keep going? Why would you get rid of something that's just making you free money? And you're not, it's not like it's not like Joel and Avram are there every day and they're like stressing out and they're like, oh my God, like the fans are pissed and, how are we going to fix this one? Like, and we need to get back to being Premier League champions. Like, it's a disgrace. It's a disgrace that we've let this club be. They don't give a fuck. So, none of it matters. And this is what I like. You have to look at it, or you have to try to attempt to look at it from greedy, money hungry. And listen, if you're not like this, I get it. It's hard to view it, but you have to look at them in this way. And then you have to sort of put on your thinking cap of, well, if I'm some guy that's all about the money, and you do a little bit of digging into what these people do and how they operate and what they believe in, because it's also a philosophy. Yes, it's also a way of life. It's almost a bit of a religion, right? That they live by in terms of like the proper process for people like the Glazers is their father bought this. Their father did a lot of business dealings. Everything that their father owned has now gone to Joel, Avram, and the rest of the siblings. Okay. Now these guys, for the most part, they'll all have children, right? And typically what these billionaires do, because this is just the way it works and this is just how it's always been done, is they own Manchester United. They will hold on to Manchester United unless somebody gives them some sort of a ridiculous offer where, then it's generational money and they'll go into some other venture. But there's one or two things. They either get the generational, insane, ridiculous amount of money, or they hold on to their asset. They pass away. Their asset is then passed down to their children. Their children now own that asset, and then their children will pass that asset down to their children, and so on and so forth. And they will just hold on to this institution for the fucking end of time until somebody fucks it up or one of the kids decides, we don't want this. Just give me the cash. I want to go fuck off and do something. But these other guys, these old school guys, they're not like that. They don't believe when you sell an asset, that's you getting out of the game. And you don't get out of the game until you fucking die. These guys don't get out of the game. I mean, look at Warren Buffett, right? Different type of guy, but I mean, he's retired from Berkshire Hathaway, yeah? He's retired from there. Like, he's not running day-to-day operations anymore. Did Warren Buffett, and he ain't even going to give his shit to his children, right? But did Warren Buffett sell all his shit because he's retired? He still has all his stocks. He still has all his shit. It's all there. And when he dies, he said he's going to give it to charity or whatever he said. He said he's not going to give it to his kids. But this is what they do. To get out of the game, right? They're in the game. The Glazers are in the game. To get out of the game, well, they'll only be out of the game when they die. And the game then gets passed on to their children. Until every once in a while, second generation, third generation, fourth generation, fifth generation of the family, somewhere along the line, there might be a kid there that assumes this shit and just goes, I don't want anything to do with this. I want to go fucking, just hang out and chill and just take the cash or the money and just fuck off. But, for our situation, you're talking about what? We got to wait till Avram and Joel die of old age or whatever, and then their kids are old enough, and then we got to see what the kids are going to do with it. We'll all be fucking dead by then. We'll all be dead by then. Check out Mukesh Ambani. He can buy it if given limelight. Push for him. What's his name? Mukesh Ambani. Let's see. Who is this guy? Here he is. Indian businessman. His net worth is 106 billion US dollars. Jesus. What does he do? Businessman and chairman and managing director of Reliance Industries Limited, RIL, India's largest private corporation. Chemical engineering degree he holds and an MBA from Stanford. Well, does he have any interest in Manchester United though? Is he a football fan? I mean, he can certainly buy it, and I don't think he needs any help with Limelight because he's got 106 billion US dollars. I think he can make his own Limelight if he wants. I think all he has to do is grab a microphone somewhere and somebody get a cell phone, and all he has to say is, I want to buy Manchester United, and that's all he needs to do. So, I don't know anything about him, but I mean, the problem is we would need him to want to buy Manchester United. So, he would have to have an interest in it. It's not just about the money. You have to have both. You need to have the interest and you have to have the money. But yes, Cash was saying, are they looking for 10 billion post new stadium? I think that's what the plan is. All about money, just need them to leave. Listen, I think, unfortunately, when you break it down and you think and you put on your greedy business owner, money hungry, not a football fan, don't think about it in any way of a football fan, don't think it in any way of a common human being, and say, listen, I would just take the money. Think about it as just being the most greediest evil fucker that you could possibly ever be in the history of ever. Yeah, just think of it from that perspective. The Glazers, okay, so Manchester United own 2 pieces of land in the area that they are trying to build the new stadium in, okay? Those pieces of property, those pieces of land goes for a lot of money, especially in today's time, because a lot of it has already been bought up. So United actually own those pieces of property. Now, by default, since the Glazers own Manchester United, they own those properties. Okay, if we had good owners, if we had owners that actually wanted to run the football club properly, if we had owners that weren't greedy fucks, all right, they could have sold that land at any fucking point, at any time. They could literally do it tomorrow if they want. They could sell that land because I don't even think that land necessarily would stop the production of a new stadium there. You can still build the stadium. It just might be like a piece smaller, right? And you just won't have a certain section, not from the stadium itself, but the surrounding area. Like the surrounding area. You just wouldn't have that. They could sell that land, and then they could then take that money, that money would be a fucking shit ton for that land. They can take that money, and since Manchester United owns it under current rules and regulations, FFP and PSR, they could take all of that money and bring it into the football club and use it for transfers. They can pay the fucking debt off with it. They could do a bunch of shit with it. But the Glazers have been sitting on this, because we just found out about this because they announced the stadium plans. The Glazers have been sitting on that, knowing that this whole time that when they bought the football club, they knew that they had that land. We didn't know we had that fucking land. I didn't know that we had that our football club owns land over there. They knew about this. The whole time they've been 20-something fucking years, they've known about this. And they weren't looking to sell it. And they could still sell it. And you say, well, they want money. Why don't they sell it? Because it's better for them when they build the new stadium. It's better for them to use it for the new stadium. They'll be able to get more money out of it. You don't sell it, you own it. Now you have a bigger piece of property. You got where the stadium is and those pieces of land that, mind you, there's nothing on that land. There's nothing there. It's just fucking land, you know? It's not like there's anything really built on there. It's just land. So when you take that land and now you combine it with the new stadium, well, now the price is way higher. Okay? And when you ultimately build that stadium, right? a bunch of shit's gonna happen, right? Listen, the amount of deals you can do when you build a new stadium, business deals, they're gonna get a shit ton of money from that. Also, it's gonna raise the value of the club, which is gonna bring them closer to their target of whatever price, 8 to 10 billion, whatever they want, right? Because it's a new facility you've invested, or there's been investment. It's going to be state of the art. You're going to get money from ticket sales and holding events there, because it's not just going to be Manchester United games. You know, we'll host, you know, the Olympics or the fucking World Cup or the Euro or, you know, Taylor Swift concerts and fucking, you know, whatever you could think of, you know, Beyonce or some shit. Whatever you could think of, they can fucking host it in there, because it's going to be massive. It's going to be one of the most state of the art places, and they're going to get a shit ton of money out of that. Yeah, they're also going to get more supporters in, because it's going to be close to 100,000 seater. So now you're getting more money per match. This is all the steps that they're trying to lay the foundation so that they can get even more money, pull out even more, raise the value at the club at the same time, sort of hit the target that they want, and then if somebody actually wants it, and it'll make it more attractive to sell as well. You know what I mean? Think about it. If they're opening to doing a deal and they just built a brand new state-of-the-art facility and it's fucking gorgeous and it's amazing and it's pulling in money, well, it's a lot more attractive to anybody that actually wants to buy the club, because you have to remember as well, they're going to have to pay back that debt. Whoever buys the club has to pay back that debt. So you got to kind of counter it with something and be like, well, listen, we're not going to pay back the debt. You know, you guys are fucked on that one, but we did get you this brand new stadium built, and you are getting a lot of money. So, you know, it's feasible. And shit like that. So, they have their high business people mentality, and we have our fan mentality. We clash in terms of ideology. We have to get rid of them permanently, as we can't negotiate and reach mutual agreement. There's nothing to negotiate. That video of Malcolm Glazer laughing at the reporters asking questions about their acquisition of the club sums up exactly how they feel. No answers, just laughs. Yeah, because they think it's a fucking joke. And, you know, listen, I'm telling you, like, the way they look at us, we're pieces of trash, man. You know, we're nothing. Like Reynoso says, we're just free money to them. Like, yeah, in a sense, but the way they look at other human beings, like, we are literally, like, the fact that we breathe air, they look at us like we are a waste of oxygen. Like, literally a waste of oxygen. Like, we are so insignificant. We are using up the oxygen that they breathe. So it's the same for everything else. Like, gas, oil, money, whatever. Like, food. Like, we are literally a waste to them. A complete waste. And the only thing they use for us is to take our money from us. Profit for life, building a new stadium, or selling 15, 20 years. Time for a retirement fund. We are the equivalent of the Lehman Brothers subprime club. Yeah, and it's essentially, that's what it is, and it's sad. You know, it is sad as fuck, and it's a really fucked situation, but that's what it is, man. That's what it is, and you know, I just don't. I don't see how you get them out unless some bullshit happens. Probably like, you know, Roman Abramovich government intervention style, but something serious would have to happen. They would have to do something really fucked up, and you know, I don't know. Maybe it'd have to be something with America does something, you know, against the UK or something, and they say no fucking American investors anymore. But, you know, I don't know. That's such a far stretch, you know, like, I can't see how it would be. We've been exploited by the Glazers ever since the first day at the club. We can only get rid of them permanently. Well, yes, we can only get rid of them permanently, but we can't get rid of them permanently because there's no way for us to get rid of them permanently. They already won, Axe. They won. Like, they have this club by the balls, okay? And there's nothing that we can do to them. The only thing we can do is take away the money from them, from our aspect, which can fuck them over. But until we figure out how to band together and do that, we'll never win. So, but in the next 10 years, the value of the 10 billion will be 5 billion, considering the inflation. and everything, they can get a deal to get royalty for life when selling the club. It's easy to do that. Well, you know what? That is certainly a good point. But maybe they're not. I think. Listen, they're trying to tell you that the club is going to be built, or the stadium is going to be done in 5 years. So I think that what they would ultimately try to do, again, either they don't actually sell it and they just hold on to it and they just keep holding on to it forever, and keep trying to make it go up, or what they do is, essentially, listen, if you get it in 5 years, you could get 5 years ahead. So, and I know what you're trying to say. I don't know in 10 years the value of the 10 billion would be 5. I don't know if it's going at that necessarily at that rate. I mean, you would have to really do the numbers on that and account for inflation and shit. But listen, I don't know, because I'm not the expert, right? I'm just trying to I'm not them. Like they fucking know way better than me, because they've been doing it their whole lives and shit. So, and that's the problem. Like, they see things and they view things and they hear things and they know things that we will never fucking know. We have no chance of ever knowing. We don't know any of this shit. They know certain things. They see certain things. They hear certain things. They talk to people that we'll never fucking talk to, that will never get access to information. So that's why I never trust them. And that's why I don't know. That's why it's like, it's hard to say when they're going to sell, if they sell, because I don't know. These guys are like, only they fucking know what they're doing, and they are successful at it as well. Like, it's it's not even like they're failing at it. It's that the fact that they're succeeding. So it's so hard to say that, oh, they're going to fuck it up. They're going to fuck it up. They got to fuck it up. They haven't fucked up yet. They haven't fucked up one time yet. Okay? They have 0 L's. Zero. They have 0. They have not lost yet. And if you look from when the family started to literally today's date, the family has 0 L's. They have never actually fucking lost. And in the case of Manchester United, they have taken 0 L's. In actuality, what L? They took $1 billion out. They got us on the stock market. They're still fucking here. They're getting a new stadium built for them. Built for them. Without them using a penny. They're never paying the debt back. And they can hold this club for as long as they fucking want. So I don't know. Like, I mean, I get what you're saying. 10 years of the value, 10. But they know what they're doing. They know what they're doing, and they know how to maximize the shit out of the profit that they're going to make, yeah? So they know exactly what they're doing. I don't know exactly how they're going to do it or what their exact plan is. I don't know if they plan to hold it for another 10 years. Maybe they plan to sell it in 5 years. Maybe they hold it for another fucking 25 years. But whatever they decide to do, they know what they're doing, because they've been doing it and they've been successful in doing it. They've been really successful with doing it. Or they begin to face a situation where they will need to put their own money into the club before Ineos came along. No, because, listen, well, yes, maybe to a certain degree, but I don't even know if that was necessarily the case. Again, that's what we were told. I don't trust what we're told, because they control the media and they control what comes out of the football club. And they certainly control the narrative. I've seen them do it before at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And we could be led to believe that. And the financials would indicate that. And there are financial experts that would tell you that obviously we were not in a good financial place and that we were bleeding money to a certain degree. And they certainly needed investment. But I don't know. I sort of look at it like they took a little piece, you know what I mean? They got paid and they kept control. It's almost like, I look at it a bit like a stock, yeah? Or crypto. I don't know if any of you are invested in it, but they do tell you, listen, if you put a lot of money in there and you make a lot of money from it, at some point, take a bit of profit. Don't leave the whole fucking thing in there. Secure some of your profits. Like, if you made profit on it, like, you never want to sell the whole thing, but you don't want to keep 100% in there. Maybe you sell 25%, and that's what they did. They sold fucking 28%. So they got a bit of guaranteed profits. The rest are going to continue to sort of, I guess, gamble with it, because it is still essentially a gamble, even though they've been really successful with it. But the problem is like, people will go at Ineos and they'll say like, oh, Ineos saved them or whatever. And if it wasn't for Ineos, they would have sold the club. And I'm just like, nah, I don't know about that, because there's so many people out there that would come in and give money to the Glazers as a partial investment to be a part of it. So I don't think they're short in any of that case. Why did Ferguson racehorse lead to the Glazer takeover? I missed that. So we had owners at the time when Fergie was here, and it was I might get a detail or two wrong, but it was something about like Fergie loves horses, and he had something about a racehorse, and essentially they got into a fight over Ferguson with it, and they told him that he couldn't fucking be involved with the racehorse thing, and he got fucking pissed about it. And we were listed on, I believe it was the UK sort of stock market at the time, and there was a loophole in the law, so it allowed the Glazers to fucking do a what's that called? A hostile takeover, because there was other investors in there, and essentially like there was this fallout between Ferguson, the two owners. They didn't speak to each other. They weren't talking to each other. And the Glazers, in the meantime, they started going little by little, and they started buying all the fucking people under them until the two guys at the top, because they're on the stock market, so you could do a hostile takeover, until they reached the two guys that were left that owned the majority. And then they were basically in a situation where there was nothing that they could do. There was nothing that they could do to stop them from getting bought out. So I mean, you could Google it and get like a better, there's like fucking a full detailed article. I'm like sort of paraphrasing and summarizing essentially. If you want like the full nitty gritty details, just Google it. Use AI, whatever. It'll tell you the whole thing. Charity, aka company owned by his children. The club acquisition would be a loss. Change to Elon Musk. I'm not sure he's into sport though. Well, right now he's definitely not. And the fan base is probably not ideologically aligned. Well, I think, listen, some people would be against Elon. You say ideologically, maybe they would say politically. I think that would be fucking stupid to do, because I think if Elon buys the club, I don't think it has any, if Elon were to buy the club, Elon's not going to fucking do anything that has anything to do with politics or whatever, Elon Musk would buy the club, and he would put somebody in charge to run the club so that it actually like succeeds. You know what I mean? And Elon wouldn't fucking like, he wouldn't be doing what Sir Jim does, and he wouldn't be doing what the Glazers do in terms of like, everything has to go to Joel Glazer, or Sir Jim Ratcliffe is stepping in and fucking putting his 2 cents in. He wouldn't even do that. He would buy the club, and he would get somebody to basically run it and make sure that it's run fucking properly, essentially. But yeah, I mean, he would need a want or a need for that. And I think he's got a lot on his plate anyway, so I don't think he's too concerned about sports. Ambani has interest in sports. Ambani. He knows cricket league team and investments in league development, but some reports suggest that he wants to enter the Premier League. He'd buy Arsenal, not Manchester United. Well, there's nothing we could do about it then. But they need to have there has to be a need for them to buy Manchester United. We're not going to influence these guys to buy it. They need to have a want. You know what I mean? My theory is that they gave up on the football after Mourinho was fired. Stadium proposal was submitted in 2018 simultaneously. I think they gave up on the football as soon as Ferguson walked out the door. They brought the rat in hoping he can convince the British government to invest in a new stadium. I think that's probably was part of it. I think Sir Jim pitched that to them. Axe, I would go one step further. I think Sir Jim pitched that to them. I think he pitched that to them because, listen, he's a business guy. He's a billionaire and he's English. And he knows, listen, he's got connections all over England and shit. So he knows people. He knows what he can probably get away with and what he can do and what he can sort of influence and shit like that. I think he pitched that to them. You know, I think he pitched that to them. That's why I think they're spearheading it. You know, because the Glazers aren't spearheading it. The Glazers, I think the Glazers were sitting here thinking about how they're going to fucking do it because they did it with the Buccaneers. And I think they were trying to find a way of how they were going to do it because they don't want to spend their money. And they would love for somebody to do it for them. And I think Sir Jim fucking pitched it to them because Sir Jim has connections. And Sir Jim knows England a lot better than maybe they do, even though they studied in England. You know, and they have connections in England as well. That's why Ed Woodward was literally their mate in college. Yeah, I think he fucking pitched it to them. And I think they came up with this idea because they were like, yo, we have 2 pieces of land and we want a new stadium so we can get more money. And I think Sir Jim pitched it to them. And I think they liked what they heard. Now, the government isn't necessarily paying for the stadium, but it does help that the government is, well, or Manchester's government is going to, you know, help refurbish or gentrify the surrounding area. So, I mean, that helps them regardless because you're going to make a new area. It's going to be a place where, you know, you would look to get in a lot of, listen, I don't know how Manchester necessarily is, but just in general, when you do gentrifying shit, okay, the people that live there that might have been living there for a while, those people are going to fucking lose their houses because they're not going to be able to afford to live there. You know, that's the point of gentrifying. You make it new, you make it bigger, you make it better, but it also costs a shit ton more money. And then the only people that can afford to live there are people with money. So you're gonna turn it into a place where it's gonna be all these people that have all this money. And that's what it's going to be. It's going to be like a sort of a refurbished area. And slowly but surely, it's not like they're going to roll through and kick you out. But over time, you won't be able to stay there. And then, you know, they'll sell the properties to people that have money. And I know this because I see it happens here all the time. And I see it around me. You know, and they've done it to areas. There was a place by my house that, listen, it was a town. It was a shithole. Absolute shithole. Crime like no tomorrow. Fucking, you know, very poor, just dirty fucking place. And they went in there, you know, with a bunch of money and they started fixing it up. And all those people that, you know, they can't afford to live there. They can't afford those fucking houses. They can't afford the property taxes. So they listen, those things were getting built and they were hanging out there for a while, but eventually those payments catch up to you. You can't afford to live there. What happens is you got to sell your fucking house and move somewhere else. And one by one, surely they do, and they end up in a different location. And now this location is sold to people that are fucking millionaires. And that's all that lives there. There's a good video on YouTube, but yeah, I think I've seen that video. Yeah, you know, a few of the folk who started FC United in 2005, and they were proven right. But hey, Global United, etc. Well, listen, listen. I don't. If we didn't have these specific, because these guys are specific assholes, yeah. If we didn't have these specific assholes, a global fan base isn't a bad thing. You know, essentially, it helped us to a certain degree as well. But it's sort of like everything and anything. You know, if you get it and it's used for the wrong reasons or it's abused, well, then it's going to be fucking shit, yeah? Like, I don't know. I don't want to get political, but like, listen, a gun, right, can be a very bad thing or it could be a good thing. You know what I mean? And if you fucking use it in a certain way, it could be a disastrous, horrible, fucking evil thing. But also, guns have saved people's lives. Like police officers have guns and they fucking save lives with it. You know what I mean? And it could be anything like that. They could be, you know, I don't know. There could be some medicine or something. You know, if you used it properly, you could save people's lives. If you fucking like opioids, for example, how about that one? You know, in the United States, we had a problem with it because it was allowed to. There wasn't enough restriction on it, so it went crazy. Like, listen, somebody that gets in a serious car accident, maybe they're fucked up. They get put in a wheelchair or something. They're in excruciating pain. Like an opioid can technically help, yeah. But when you start handing opioids out for getting your fucking tooth pulled, well, that's when it becomes a problem, yeah. And now it's getting abused, and you're causing a fucking havoc. So it's the similar thing. It's a similar thing. It's already been 3 decades of regeneration around the old industrial canal network in that area around Old Trafford. Yeah, but this plan, certainly what they're doing and what they're planning and the outlay of this plan, this is a massive regentrification of that area. And what comes with that is like how I explained, you know, people that live there that might not be able to afford or don't make a lot of money, like they won't be able to live there, you know, after a certain period of time, and they will lose their properties, and one by one, you know, their properties will get regentrified as well, you know. So that might be a bit different because maybe, you know, the Manchester Council does it in a way where these people will be able to keep their homes. I'm not 100% sure about that, but it's certainly all about money, you know. Same shit here in LA and so far. Yep, LA is definitely, I mean, LA is like the same as New York, you know what I mean? Although I would argue that California is a bit more fucked, no disrespect, my friend, but California, the way I see it is a little bit more fucked than New York, but New York is fucked as well. So I mean, it's kind of the same everywhere you look, and you know, even other parts of the world. I mean, it's happening everywhere. And usually, what I say is, listen, I already don't believe in coincidences, yeah, and you know, when I look at it, if I look at New York and then I look at Cali. And Cali has the same problems as New York. And then I'm looking at France and it has the same problems. And I look at Germany and it has the same problems. And I look at, you know, England and it has the same problems. And I look at, you know, any other country and it's like, that's funny. All the same, that specific problem is popping up all over the fucking place in the world. I mean, like, that's interesting, you know, because to me, I don't believe in coincidences as it is already, and I say, well, that shit's being done on purpose to fucking people and the world, and why, I don't know, but I don't like it, and it's fucking evil, you know? No, I'm not giving you thoughts on Mom Donnie. It happens in New York City all the time. No, we're not talking political shit. Stop it. The more we discuss the Glazers, the more we discover the sickness and toxicity of the global financial system. Well, that we know. I mean, it's been there for fucking years and years and years, and we're not going to do anything about it, are we? We lost that battle a long time ago, my friend. Only way you can win is if you stay alive. That's about it. That's about it. That's where we are. That's where we are. Everyone else says, yep, yeah, I know. It's shit, but, you know, you got to try and make the most of what we can do with it, so, but listen, I'm going to get out of here. I kept you guys here long enough. We'll see each other tomorrow. Everybody be good. If you smashed the like button, I greatly appreciate it. Thank you. If you didn't, and if you could, just do it on your way out. I greatly appreciate it as well. Shout out to all you guys for the support, the love, getting involved in the chat, making the show what it is, making the channel what it is. Greatly appreciate it. I really do. Anything else that I need to say before I get out of here? Oh, that's what. So Darren Fletcher, real quick, confirms JJ Gabriel will not be involved. I forgot. I think it was Cash or somebody said that they gave us this update, and he said, well, he could be, but he's not going to be because obviously anybody could be picked. But JJ is a fantastic talent. I've enjoyed working with him immensely, getting to know him. Yeah, I mean, listen, I don't think we don't need to push him through right now like that. So let him just continue to do his thing. He's a young guy. We need to win tomorrow. The bench is getting more full. Fletcher said a lot of things. I'm not going to go over all of them, but I'm just saying anything. Yeah. So yeah, listen, I've got my theories another place and another time. Oh yeah. I mean, listen, we could talk about it tomorrow if you want when you come back. Axe says good night, Glaze is out. Yep, Glaze is out, Ineos out. Glinios out. GGMU. Yeah, so listen, I don't think I'll do a watch along tomorrow. I don't think I'll do one, but I will say I'll leave it open because maybe I'll feel like doing one tomorrow. You know, tomorrow's a new day and I might feel like doing one, but definitely 100% for sure guaranteed either way. We will be live for the Red Devil recap right after the match ends. So you know, we'll be live and we'll be there. So make sure you get there. I want to see everybody. I want to talk to everybody. It's, you know, it's always good when everybody shows up and there's a lot of people. It makes me feel good. You know what I mean? Because I like all the different opinions and I just like having like a, you know, a nice big discussion with a bunch of different people. So yeah, it's always good when everybody shows up and everybody's just kind of hanging out and chilling. And you know, I know I haven't been able, you know, if some of you were wondering, I haven't been able to do the shows because my schedule has changed. So, and I've been getting home late and stuff like that, and it's too late to do shows. I did one the other day, and it was listen, there was some guys there, and you know, I appreciate that because it was sort of late for them, and you know, it was still decent, but yeah, it's really hard, you know, especially for me because I don't even have like set times, so it's hard for me to explain to you guys like, oh yeah, we'll do it this day, but I can confirm that obviously, you know, we did one today. We're going to do one tomorrow. We'll do one on Monday for sure. And then Tuesday, we'll see. Tuesday, if I do one, it has to be early. Like it has to be like, maybe like, I don't know. It would have to be like 3 p.m. UK time or something like that. It would have to be like really early, like way earlier than we usually do it. So, I'll see. We might not do one. What I might do is just record a video on Tuesday and put it out for Wednesday. Because Wednesday we won't be able to do one for sure, and then Thursday we gotta see what happens on Thursday, and maybe we'll be back Thursday. And maybe we'll be back Friday. So, you know, it's a bit hard to tell you guys what the schedule is, so I feel bad. But just, you know, just be on the lookout, you know, just be on the lookout. And you should have the notification thing on so you get notified. So that way, you know, if you do forget, and I do schedule a show or the show is a little bit out of the blue, you'll get notified. And that way, you know, you'll be here. So, Renosa says, peace, bro. Peace out, man. Be good, stay safe, my brother, and hopefully we win tomorrow. And you know, let's just stay in the FA Cup, please. I hope Darren Fletcher does well. I hope the lads go out there and give us a performance and do well. Peace out, Axe Lord. Yeah, and I just hope we win. I hope we put in a good display. I hope we could put in a good performance. I don't want to do a show tomorrow. Where I'm angry, okay? I don't want to do a show where I'm angry and I'm yelling and I got to argue with people and I got to fight with people. I don't want to do that. I want to do a show where we're celebrating that we beat Brighton and we're happy and we're in, you know, the next round of the FA Cup, and we can all enjoy our weekend and enjoy our time together as United fans. So hopefully we win. I hope Fletcher gets the 3 points. Or, well, it's not 3 points. I hope he gets the win. And we'll see what happens. But other than that, everybody have a good night. Be good, stay safe, and we'll see each other tomorrow. Take care.